Writing techniques?
No.
Oh, okay. You want to hear something? All right. Let's move forward. I'm in the middle of a situation, and if my phone rings and it's one particular person, I'm going to request that you give me just a couple of minutes. We are in the midst of buying a car. It's a used car, and it's in Daytona, Florida, and I've never seen the car or test driven it. How comfortable am I? And so this phone call is with a Toyota dealer who might be able to go and test drive it for me. That's what the nature of this call is about. So hopefully it will be maybe nothing more than a 2-minute interruption. All right, and let's see, what I don't understand is, how come I call him, my husband talked to him, and he's in a meeting? And I'm busy. I'm teaching a class. The world doesn't revolve around me, I discovered. And I think it should. So, I will put myself on standby here. All right, let's go to our next page in the handout. 3 most successful techniques on how to master instant recall. Oh, and by the way, I'm selling a little pill. It's only $75 and you'll have instant recall. I would buy it if I had such a thing. Okay, number 1, adopt guidelines for using the asterisk. What do I mean by that? Some of us went to school a long time ago before we were taught to use the asterisk in our writing style. And younger people would have a very hard time imagining such a silly thing. Well, why wouldn't you use the asterisk? Because we never thought about it. And we would use the asterisk to delete. We would write a bad stroke, hit an asterisk, it would delete, and we go back. And today, with all our CAT softwares, I believe it's all of them, we do what we call a multiple stroke delete. If you hit the asterisk 4 times, that means the last 4 strokes get deleted. How many of you use 2 asterisks for a paragraph? Anybody in this room? Okay, I saw a couple of hands go up. Normally when I teach, especially in my workshops, and Luis will tell you this is the truth, if you don't believe me, and that is I offer you ideas and suggestions, I don't tell you what you have to do. This is one of those few things that I'm going to strongly recommend that you do. Do not use the asterisk twice for a paragraph, because in most CAT softwares, it means that you are deleting the last 2 strokes. Having said that, you might have a setting where your 2 asterisks will give you a paragraph, and you don't do the 2 asterisks for those 2 stroke deletes. And that's okay. If you are working it and it works well for you, I'm not saying you must give it up. I'm giving you a strong recommendation. And that is, you could try PA asterisk for paragraph. PA. Paragraph with the asterisk. Easy stroke to learn, single stroke. And generally speaking, I do talk about single strokes. How many of you love the idea of having 2 possibilities for an error instead of 1 possibility? And if you would rather have, you'd rather have 2 possibilities for an error?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I meant the opposite. I was thinking.
No, you would rather have less errors or less possibility for oh, that's fine. Okay. So we talk a lot about 1 strokes. I know you use 2 strokes for some things, some of you. Depends on what school you went to. And it's not the end of the world. However, well, let me just give you this example. Are you doing the CH words like bench, lunch, munch, crunch? Are you coming back 2nd stroke FP or che? Anybody? Yes? Anybody else? Okay. That is something I'm going to strongly recommend you don't do. How about the K, final K? Bank. I will bank on this. B-A-N, 2nd stroke K. Okay, how about you? 2nd stroke K? No? Yes? A few of you. All right, folks, I love it when you do what you want to do. I love it when you integrate ideas with what works well for you. Some people like that process and they do it. Let me share with you a few things that could go wrong. Number 1, some people write final BG for the word being. If you're using final BG for the word being, she is being very proactive. That is the same stroke you are using as a final K for the word bank. If you were writing, this is a poor example, but it doesn't matter, it gives you the idea. If the ban being too difficult to live with is inappropriate, we should cancel the ban, or whatever. My point is, how do you write the word ban and then the word being if you're writing the word bank, B-A-N, second stroke, B-G, K. So the thought process here is, in general, in real time, one outline, one definition. One outline, one definition. If you're using final BJ for something, a BG for something, that's okay. But don't do it for either or. We used to say things like go or gone, am or is or whatever. Not am or is, but am or him or something like that. And many. Okay, good. Am or many. Whatever we would say. There's no more of the ors. One outline, one definition. And with this second stroke, you might say it's not a big deal. I went to the bank last week. I went to the ban BG last week. Just one quick stroke. No big deal. Yeah, no big deal. Bang, bang, bang. With all the NK words, with all the CH words, and words that end in, well, we've got the NK, and then we've got words that end in RCH. We've got words that end in different outlines. And if you're constantly writing one stroke extra, just boop, one extra stroke, one extra stroke, one extra stroke. How many times a day are you doing that? 100? 200? If you're writing 200 quick little extra strokes a day, what does that mean? That means you're writing 1,000 strokes a week extra. And what is 1,000 strokes? 4,000 strokes a month. 50,000 strokes a year, just on that one thought process. Anybody ever hear of carpal tunnel syndrome or repetitive stress? We want to be very conscious of our stroking. I teach real-time different from other instructors. Some people teach the concept and the thought process, write less, write shorter strokes, combine words. Get one stroke for a word instead of 2 strokes, or instead of 3 strokes. And my message to you is, you can write less strokes, you can write shortcuts, you can write phrases in a single stroke, and you can write out. If you do write 2 strokes for a word, or 3 strokes for a word, or you do not phrase very much, you are fine. You are great. You do not have to change what you do. This goes contrary to what some people say. Some people say that you will never be a merit writer if you're a writer-outer. Jennifer Bonfilio, Bonfilio, is a marvelous captioner. She teaches cart and captioning. She has a fabulous agency for cart and captioning. She's a brilliant writer, she is a merit writer, and she's a writer-outer. So how can somebody make a statement, you cannot be a merit writer, if you write out? I say to you, do what comes naturally, work with your normal, natural writing style. It's excruciating and painful to change. And it doesn't mean that we don't change, because I would think every single real-time writer has changed. I know I've certainly revamped and revised and reinvented my writing through the years. But if you're a writer-outer, just be open to possibilities, and I'll bet, as a writer-outer, even you have the odd shortcut. You probably made something up here and there. And I just say to be open-minded and maybe try one more outline that you could shorten a concept. Write it down, review it every day, and there is nothing wrong with that. It's a great idea. Do it in your own way, in your own time, as you choose. And in the meantime, celebrate what you are doing. because there are other writer-outers who do not brief very much, and they're marvelous writers. They're marvelous real-time writers. They're excellent, and some of them are merit writers. So please know that whatever it is you're doing is okay. You are good. And it doesn't mean that you can't reinvent or change something you'd like to change. Some of you have a lot of briefs. Some of you love shortcuts. I was raised with briefs from day one, lesson one in my theory class. I had a theory teacher who loved to teach shortcut single strokes. I was very happy that I had that teacher because my way of being works beautifully with shortcuts and briefs. So on a personal level, which I don't talk a lot about, this seminar is not about me, it's about you. On a personal level, I love shortcuts, briefs, phrases, and I love to invent. I've heard some people say, Anita Paul writes everything out. And that's okay. If somebody wants to say that about me, I have no problem with it. It's not the truth, but it's okay. Who cares? Doesn't matter. My point is, the truth is I do shortcut. I don't talk a lot about it. I'd rather talk about your writing, the way you write. I like to teach your way, not my way. What was interesting is one person was in our theory class, a young lady named Kathy. She befriended the teacher, and they actually became best friends, and she worked at the school with the teacher, and as close friends, Kathy shared with the teacher. It took her over a year to get through theory, and she never was good at it. And she never could really master the theory. She hated all of the briefs. She couldn't adapt to all of those shortcuts and phrases. She couldn't remember them all. Well, Kathy and the teacher, I remember her name too, Becky Brown. That was her name, 1973. Okay. So Becky Brown and Kathy opened a new school, and they rewrote the theory. And Becky decided to teach writing out everything. Kathy loved it. What a disservice to some people. If you get a little sense of where I'm coming from on this, I'm not saying that this way is great, that way is great, but to offer a basic, solid foundation of theory, and then work one-on-one with people if they have individual tendencies or traits. Assist that person to find their voice, to find what works for them. But anyway, that's just a little background of where I come from and why I say what I say. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's talk about this asterisk. You could use an asterisk with guidelines. The reason I suggest guidelines is you don't have to stop and think. I'm going to sue you next week in court. I'm going to sue. Let me think now. Do I put an asterisk in that word sue? You in court. Oh, come on. Just write the sentence. Let's move on with life. We do sue, S-L-U. That's it. My sister Sue came to visit last week. My sister Sue with the asterisk or no asterisk. I mean, think about that. Should I put an asterisk in sister Sue? Proper names get an asterisk. Do you see what I'm saying? It will become totally automatic. My sister Sue, asterisk is right there. I can't even air write without doing the asterisk. So the concept is when you've got a guideline and it's locked into your mind, you don't stop and think, no hesitation. I mentioned no hesitation earlier today, so that's what I'm talking about. Another guideline, an asterisk for initial caps, such as avenue, street, highway, way, village, road, different words like that. Or what about commissioner, governor, director, if you are speaking directly to, would you please tell us, Governor, why did you implement that law? Or detective, no. I'd like you to explain, detective, what your thought process was. We would do explain, comma, detective with a capital D, which addressing the detective directly, that would get a capital D. So to use an asterisk in words that get capitalized, it's an automatic thought process. It's a guideline. Again, it's not a rule. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. That's totally fine. It's just a guideline, and if you like it, use it. It becomes yours. Another guideline is using asterisk in animals. Alan Peacock, court reporter from Alabama, was in one of my classes, and he said he uses an asterisk in animals like doe and doe, deer and deer. You could use one in the word ant, a little ant that crawls around, A-N-T. Would you like to know why I just said that? You're supposed to say yes. Would you like to know why I just said that?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were just itching to know. Okay. The reason I suggest A-N-T as a little animal crawling around with an asterisk is many of you write A-N-T as a suffix. Claimant, deponent. When you hear the nt, some of you write A-N-T. Some of you write final N-T as a suffix. If you do, that's fabulous. Keep doing it. And then some of you also write a duplication of a consonant. Deponent, you write depone and then ment. Or concordance, you write concord dance. So you duplicate the consonant. Oh, thank you very much.
They're out of zero.
Oh. See, now, not only does he know my favorite drink is Coke Zero, and he answered a question that was in my head, but do you know that he partially opened it for me? So sitting up here, I wouldn't have to struggle with the opening. And we talk about love languages and acts of service. I told you, every day is my birthday. Thank you for my birthday present. And luckily, I got over the need and love and joy of me getting birthday presents. I had such a marvelous childhood and went through a lot of change emotionally when my first husband didn't know how to give presents either. And I would cry 4 days before and after my birthday. Oh, God, it's so good to be free again. Anyway, so you put him up to that to prove the example. You had a little conversation with him so we could talk about that. I'm just playing. And for the video, we were talking about the book, The 5 Love Languages. Okay. So let's go back to our asterisks. And. Because some of you might write A-N-T sometimes in some of these words. It is, if you do that, like accountant. How do you write accountant? Do you write tant at the end? Or do you write account and then A-N-T? If you write A-N-T, here's a suggestion. Define A-N-T as a suffix. In your CAT software, your suffix. For example, case catalyst, it would be the word suffix or the capital X format symbol, and then A-N-T. You all know what I'm talking about? Case catalyst, yes. So define A-N-T as a suffix A-N-T. And the reason is you're already doing it. You're not changing your writing. And if somebody ever makes up a word, you will have a beautifully formatted, oh, wait a minute. Maybe they don't make up words in Texas, huh? Do they make up words here? Yeah, they sure do in California and Nevada. But anyway, if you're already doing something like the A-N-T, keep it. It's part of all those words you write, and it becomes a suffix. Then your little animal A-N-T, we always like to ask a question when we make a change. What is high frequency? What is low frequency? Would you say the little crawly guy who invades a picnic, the little ant crawling around, is that high frequency or low frequency? Very low, yes. So you would be okay to add an asterisk, and it's an animal. I'll tell you what my reality is. I can analyze this thought process, create A-N-T with an asterisk, define it as an ant that crawls around, A-N-T. Of course, our uncle and auntie, or A-U-N-T, would be written A-U-N-T for ant. And 10 months later, I'm writing about a case, and the guy saw an ant crawling up his leg. He looked down, swatted it, and ran into the tree. And when I'm writing, I'm thinking, let's see, I was driving along, and I felt something crawl up my leg, and I looked down, and it was an ant, and my brain goes, ant. Is that in my dictionary? Is that in my database? I don't know. Is it A-N-T? Does it mean anything else? You know, I'm not really sure. I just don't remember. Well, you know what? It's only 3 letters. Yeah, it's short. Why don't we finger spell it? Okay, good idea. That way we'll know for sure. Okay. That thought process takes about 1,000th of a second. Kevin Daniel, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a great captioner and he does a lot of presentations. And he says that he finger spells almost every 3-letter word. No, he doesn't finger spell and. He doesn't finger spell the. But many, many, many 3-letter words he finger spells. And he finger spells a lot of 4-letter words. It becomes a mindset. If you're like me, you might think to yourself, I never have time. I couldn't finger spell all of. You have a Coke Zero? Okay. Isn't it funny when we have a certain brand, our radar goes right to that brand? Label. Okay, so let's see, where was I? Read that again, please.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
Why, I don't understand why you would finger spell 4-letter words.
Because if you're not positive it's in your database and you are captioning at the stadium with 55,000 people reading your captions, or you are captioning the news and you don't want anything embarrassing to come up, if you're not positive what is in your database, you will do the best you can. And one of the best you can comments is finger spell. You can finger spell a 7-letter word.
Well, I just think that automatically, I think that's too much time. Too much time.
Of course you do. Absolutely. Are you a captioner, by the way?
No.
Okay. And they don't always speak at 300 words a minute or 250. Sometimes they're lolling along at about 140. So you have a general sense. You have a sixth sense. You know, you just know how to do things. You know that if there's a little extra time and there's a bit of pause, you have time to do that finger spelling. Believe it or not, you have time to do it more than you think. And it's a technique that you do learn, you do master, and it becomes part of captioning training or card training. So I totally relate to what you're saying. As a regular court reporter, I understand. And I'm telling you that it is a wonderful technique that captioners learn. I don't know, actually, of a captioner who does not finger spell. It is part of their world. Or a very, very strong real-time writer who does a lot of technical work and needs to have things accurate. So if you're writing and you are, you want to make sure a word trans right, you'll do your best. If they're going very, very fast, you're going to hang in for dear life and not worry. And you might have a mistrain, and that's okay too. Remember, folks, what's your Texas CSR, 95% or 97%? You're licensed at 95%. You have 5% room for error. If an attorney dared to tell you you missed a word, you say, counsel, good for you. You found an error. I'm licensed at 95%. That means I am allowed 43 errors a minute. I really write 4 errors a minute. I train at one of the top 1.5% skill levels of court reporters in the United States. And what it took me to get there. My $29,000 investment in my 6 years of retraining, relearning, undoing, redoing, and achieving this high skill level, I think you've given me a compliment. And sure, you did find one of those very few errors that I did make, so good for you. Congratulations. Move on. Get out of my face. But it's a tempo, it's a technique that you learn, and it becomes part of the captioning world. Okay? All right. The reason I said I would finger spell the word and is if I'm not 100% positive it's going to trans perfectly, A asterisk NT. If I don't know that 10 months after I put it in my database, I'm not going to do it. And this is why I'm talking about reviewing every day and mastering your changes. I talked about preparation this morning. It is vital to know what is in your database. I use the word database. Some people say dictionary. Whoever invented this whole concept of real time didn't ask me my opinion. If I ran the world, it would be called a database, but we call it a dictionary. I believe the word dictionary is a term of art. It's what we say. We know what we mean by talking about our cat dictionary. The outside world doesn't. One day, there was a court reporter who was writing something, and an attorney asked what that was. He couldn't figure it out, read it in real time. She says, well, that's just a word that's not in my dictionary. Oh, you don't have flagrant in your dictionary? Here, why don't you check out mine? I have a Merriam-Webster's here. Do you see what I'm saying? When you use the word dictionary to the outside world, what is their language? What is their understanding? We don't want to talk term of art to others. We want to use term of art within our industry, which is great. And when I talk about this in the workshop, sometimes if I say to somebody, you're writing and something doesn't translate, and they say to somebody who might question them, oh, that information is not yet entered in my database. Sometimes court reporters feel good about that. They feel, oh, I'm not a horrible bad person. If information is not entered in the database, that doesn't make you a bad person. And don't raise your hands. But how many of you think you're a bad person when you misstroke, when you drop, when you don't have something tran perfectly? Does that make you a bad person? I don't think so. It makes you a wonderful person because you're a court reporter. Wow. And we focus so much on mistakes. Oh my goodness. You know that old saying, you become what you think about? So you become a misstroke. We can think about other things, and we can, and really, the whole magic to the real-time environment is your posture, your attitude. If you're in a deposition or you're in a courtroom and you sit tall, chin up, shoulders back, act confident, smile, look great, take charge, do what you need to do. Counsel, please speak up. There are some attorneys who think that if you design the room the way you want it, you are going to sit here and the attorneys are going to sit there. And you set up the ground rules and you don't take certain things. Sometimes they think you're a fabulous court reporter. Boy, you are a take charge person. You know how to run a deposition. Some court reporters feel intimidated. They don't want to speak up. They might get in trouble. What if they call the agency and say what a bad court reporter that person is? Ooh, I operate from fear. I'm afraid of all these people. Well, whatever. You get to operate the way you choose in life. But this goes back to a little bit of what we talked about this morning. My bottom line here is, when you make music your body language of competence, professionalism, you know what you're doing, and you are excellent, which you are. You're all great. Well, let me ask, how many of you people are competent? You feel you're a competent court reporter? How many of you are competent? Okay, I saw about a third of the hands go up. How many of you folks are incompetent? Raise your hands. I want to see all the hands of the rest of you who you feel you're incompetent. Okay, let's try a new thing. How many of you refuse to raise your hands no matter what I say? Could we try one more time? And this works for me. This is okay. How many of you feel you are a competent court reporter? Raise your hands. Thank you. Am I safe to say that's everyone in the room? Well, when you mentally choose to go to the place called I am competent, you transform. You don't need to go to those other weaker places. And that's what's going to make your job a little easier in many, many environments. I know there are odd situations. We could talk for 2 hours about difficult situations, judges who are really awful. I worked in court for 17 years, 105 judges in the Los Angeles Municipal Court, and I will tell you, I had respect for 5 of them. That meant I disrespected 100 judges in our court system. I know what the world of court is like. I know what the world of judges is like. Okay, let's continue with our asterisks. So, I told you you could use asterisks in animals if you like that guideline. And you'll never guess how I knew about this through Alan Peacock. and how I managed to remember his name. Okay. Use an asterisk for instant briefs. Robin Williams. If you're doing the news and you were talking about Robin Williams for a month, you could do ROMS with the asterisk. Pick up the first syllable and the last syllable. Okay? All right. Now it would be Joan Rivers, right? How about J-O asterisk S? Joan Rivers, or J-O asterisk R. Whatever you choose to make up as a brief, you can do that. But you see, we're talking guidelines for the asterisk. We're not saying, oh, you can put an asterisk in that prefix. Or, oh, I like an asterisk in that suffix. That's good. I'll put an asterisk here. I'll put an asterisk here. Oh, here's a conflict. Let's put an asterisk in that conflict. 5 months later, how are you going to remember where the asterisk was? So let's take a word. If anything comes to your mind, shout it out. Or give us a word where I'm going to illustrate for you how you can put an asterisk in something. And if you can't think of something now, that's okay. I'm going to share a thought with you. Sight, sight, sight. We've got S-I-G-H-T. Some people write that S long I-G-T. You do the G-T for the G-H-T ending. Some people don't. Some people write sight. My vision or my sight is S long I-T. Whatever your normal way of writing the word sight is, keep it. That's totally fine. Now we have a construction site, S long I-T. If you do S long I-G-T for the vision or the site, now you could do S long I-T for a construction site. If you do S long I-T for the vision site, what are you going to do about the construction site? Have you created a way to solve that conflict? Do you do S-O-I-T? And you know that's the construction site. Have you never gotten that far? Are you using conflicts on purpose? Did you define it as a conflict? Let your software pick the correct spelling. Today's software does a lot of that. Do I recommend it? I'll share with you my thoughts. Personally, I love having control of my writing. When I write something, I want it to translate the way I know it should translate. That's how I like to write. But then I was also training myself in real time before automatic translation or conflict solutions. I didn't have the tools in those days that you have today. If your automatic conflict resolution works very, very well for you, keep it. Absolutely. Use anything that works. Does your software sometimes pick the wrong word? I do not want to fail the CRR because my software chose an incorrect word. I would rather have control of my writing. I do not want to caption. I do not want to card. I do not want to do real time in front of 9 attorneys or streaming on the web worldwide and have my software pick a wrong word. So just my thinking, I like control of what I write. So having said that, am I saying don't use automatic conflict resolution in your software? I am absolutely not saying that. You learn your software, you learn the features, you try what feels great to you, make your own decisions. It's just like auto-brief or brief it. You know how the software will make a brief for you after you've written a word 2 or 3 times? Are you with me? Yes, no? Yes? Okay, good. A nod works great too. Okay. Some people love it, and it works great for them. Use it. Absolutely. Some people like me, I don't like it. It kept giving me all these new words and kept inventing stuff. I like control of my writing. I have to turn it off. When I write a word, I'll write it. When I want to make up a brief, I will make it up. And we're going to talk about making up briefs. Okay. So, number 1, adopt guidelines for using the asterisk. So here we are, we've got a word, a conflict, sight and site. And let's say I write my vision and my site is S long I-T. What am I going to do with construction site? S-I-T-E. I'm going to put an asterisk in that word. When I say to myself, I'm going to put an asterisk in any word I choose, and in this case, S-I-T-E. I'm suggesting you take a 20-second pause and create a visualization with two parts. Number one, envision an asterisk in the word that is a huge asterisk, or there are many, 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 many asterisks. Secondly, give those asterisks motion, or the big, huge asterisk motion. One example, construction site, S-I-T-E, S long I-T with the asterisk. What I chose to do with my construction site, oh my goodness, you should see they're building houses. They're building a whole bunch of houses at one time. And these fellas are drumming these huge nails right through the 4x8s or the 2x4s. They're hammering them through. And the nails, actually the things they're hammering, go out the other end. They hammered them so hard that these nails, or whatever you want to call them, they're really asterisks. So they're hammering, and out fly the asterisks. They're flying all over the place till they hit the ground. I do not want to walk on the ground with my construction site because it's going to hurt my feet, all those little pointy asterisks. Because there's thousands of them. The whole construction site is filled with asterisks, either going through or already landing on the ground. So for me personally, my choice of mental imagery is S long I-T for construction site asterisk. Another example would be aisle, aisle, aisle. We have A-I-S-L-E, I-S-L-E, and I''L-L. Yes?
How about site, C-I-T-E?
Site, C-I-T-E, good. Who has a way to write C-I-T-E? Thank you, I forgot to mention that. Yes?
With a C.
With a C, K-R long I-T. We can use a letter C, K-R, for homophones that start with the letter C, like site and site and site, and cell and cell. He lives in a jail cell. He lives in a jail cell. And so we've got cell and cell. Great question. Thank you. Sure. Okay. So another example was that word aisle. I''L''. Many people write contractions with long vowel, single stroke. A-O-E-U-L. Some of you come back second stroke. Some of you were taught an apostrophe is an A-E, or an apostrophe is something. You can shorten that concept if you like. Take a list of contractions and study them and see how you can create a single word. There will be conflicts, sure. You know, there will be a conflict like, I thought we'd go to the store. Are you going to write W-A-O-E-D for the contraction weed? Because W-A-O-E-D is a word, weed. So, yes, there's a conflict. You might run into 2 or 3 conflicts which you deal with individually, one at a time. But the thought process here is, if you add an asterisk to a homophone or to something, give it a visual. For me personally, I chose to give myself an asterisk for walking down the A-I-S-L-E. The aisle that I go down is an aisle where the bride and groom are going to get married. There are poles with huge floral bouquets made of beautiful colored asterisks. And in this church or environment, temple, or wherever they are walking down an aisle, the air conditioning is so strong that you see these asterisks flopping back and forth in the wind from the air. And there's about 8 of them. There's 4 on each side. The poles have these beautiful bouquets going down the aisle. You get the idea? So you give yourself a silly little picture, and you make it with asterisks moving, either big ones or a whole bunch of them, and you've got locked in. Will I, 5 weeks from now, hear the word aisle and say to myself, should I put an asterisk in that word? What you want to do is eliminate the hesitation. Make sense? Great. Okay. You might have a wide asterisk key, and if you do, that's great. And if you don't, that's great. I've never had a wide asterisk key. I do recommend them. I think they're great. Okay. So whatever you've got is good. If you do not have a wide asterisk key, there are ways to use the asterisk with the letter R on the right side, because you can do an asterisk tab or a shift. What is an asterisk tab? Envision with me for a minute. Everybody, you can write on your desk, ROR. Everybody write ROR. You all can do that, okay? We all know what that is. If you need to write the ROR with an asterisk, what you can do is do an asterisk tab. What do I mean? Here are the three fingers for the ROR. Are you with me? You know how we do ROR. So I hit the ROR, keep the left hand down, lift the right index finger, and tap the asterisk. Then let go of the left hand. That's what we mean by the tap. ROR tap, and then let go. This is one technique if you don't have a wide key.
Or you could get a wide key.
Or you can get a wide key, absolutely.
I've always had a wide key, and I forget, one time I had a machine, I had to borrow something, and it didn't have a wide key, and it drove me crazy for one day.
Absolutely. You're not used to putting your finger in a big wide space. It would drop in. I knew one young man who took the California CSR, and his thumb got caught between the keys, and it was bleeding. So he could not keep writing. He cut his thumb in between two keys. Crazy things happen, don't they? Okay. All right. So, yes, absolutely. And you can get a wide key on both sides. It can extend on the left and right, or just the right, whichever you prefer. Okay. So, yes, that's a very good point. But the asterisk tap is one technique. It comes in very conveniently. And the second technique is shifting your hand to the left. You know your fingers can go on RBGS. We all know RBGS, the comma. If you lift your hand and move over a set of keys, the index finger is on the asterisk, and the middle finger is on the R. So now your fingers would be resting on the asterisk RBG. It feels like a comma. It's over one set of keys to the left. Now, if you think that's impossible, stop and think back to theory lesson number 6 or whatever it was. And the teacher said, SKWR is a J. I don't know about you. Excuse me, teach. SKWR is not a J. You can't get a J from a score. How can you possibly get a J from SKWR? Just ask anybody out there. Ask the guy that works at the hotel. And we were taught, yes it is, it's a J, and of course today we don't think about it, we just think this, that's a J. And we read it beautifully. But we can learn anything. And you can learn to shift if you want to. So this is a second way you could write R-O asterisk R. R-O asterisk index finger, middle finger R. Those two together. It feels like the SH. It feels like that RB. But it's over a set of keys to the left. Are you following? Questions? Okay. Now, you notice we asked you not to bring your machines today. And you can see why we don't need them, because it's mainly lecture. And also, to write one thing, ROR, it wasn't hard to do that on the table. Or you could do it on your lap. So, okay. So, the asterisk key, the asterisk tab, and the shift. Reinforced with a word logbook or an effective daily review system where you write your new words down and the steno. Review daily every entry. Highlight an entry when you've mastered it. If you're going through your new list of words every single day, after a few days you're going to say to yourself, oh yeah, I remember that one. I've got that one. Okay. So highlight it out. Add new entries. You'll always be adding new. You can highlight out. And use visualizations to aid in the memory process. Folks, these are just a few ideas for you to master new strokes. And I think you've got the idea that I take it very, very seriously. Sometimes people go to steno swap, or they go to conventions and they hear new briefs. And, oh, you can write this word this way. Oh, I like that. You can write that word that way. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I phrase this. Ooh, neat. I do that. Ooh, 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 ooh. Where are you in 3 months? Do you have instant recall? I will do my best to not dwell on this. Because I'm going to get to the point where you're going to say, Anita, you're getting obnoxious if you say that one more time. We got it! And that is to master new strokes and to take anything that you write very seriously. Welcome! Come on up, come on up. Come on up! Come on up. How many of you know Pam Coder? She's from Texas. Oh, several of you. I just want to introduce Pam. She's one of our speakers this afternoon. You are in for a treat. She is phenomenal, and she's got something special, fun planned for you. Pam Coder is from Houston, and she has an amazing school. When we talk about schools today, and how many have closed, she has a brick and mortar school. Can you imagine? She's actually got a real school, and I have to tell you, I visited it earlier this year when I was in Houston, and I was blown away because I've known Pam for years. I knew Pam before she even thought of school, before she knew how to spell it. No. And to watch her get a glint in her eye, she had a blink, and she thought, maybe I should open a court reporting school. And to see what she's manifested, if you're ever in Houston, do make the effort and time to see her school. It is one of a kind. I mean, I just want to go there because it's so unbelievably beautiful. She used Feng Shui. She's got secrets that she used. The colors, the decor, oh my gosh, we would all have dreamt to have gone to such a gorgeous white. Anyway, I just want to introduce you. You have anything to share with the people?
No.
Okay, great.
I'll see you later. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So on this page, which is not numbered, we've done guidelines and we've done reinforcing our behaviors. So I think we're good on that. Any questions? Any comments? Yes.
I will say one comment. The school that I had started at was CRID in Dallas, and I transferred to Del Mar. And they had a different way of thinking about things, as in.
Wait a minute. Can you all hear? Do you mind standing? If you don't want to, it's okay. I care more
I
than
don't
people
mind
can hear.
standing.
It's
Okay.
just a matter of them hearing.
Okay, well, when you're talking about the changes or whatever, okay, so I started at CRID, which was, all of our teachers were court reporters, so they would throw lots of stuff at us, which was great. When I transferred to Del Mar, the teachers and professors there weren't court reporters, they were teaching theory. And so I tried at one point to introduce the little, I don't know, I don't care, I don't remember shortcut, and they shot me down so quickly. So all the girls were writing that stuff out. I was like, I can't believe they don't want to learn. Well, later, the FPLT for the period was always, I always messed that up. And when I learned the PP, I was like, oh, I'd never be able to change to the PP for a period after doing the FPLT for so many years. I think it took me a week. It just took a week for me to change from that period to the PP. And I could, like you're talking about mastering it, it doesn't take as long as you would think. For something that big of a deal, that's a period is like everywhere. And I was like, I cannot believe my fingers are going to PP that quickly after changing, after writing it that way. It was, and I'm not working now, but when I do the best thing or in church, I do the priest, I go to PP after, it was just incredible change that happened.
That's wonderful.
So the mastery doesn't take as long as you guys might be fearing the change on the asterisk or anything like that.
Thank you. That's excellent feedback. Yeah, oh. Thank you very much. And what is she talking about? The next page. And I'll give you an example. Think about when you're editing a sentence. Do you ever get something like, he walked all the way home-ment? H-O-M-E-M-E-N-T. Anybody ever get that at the end of a sentence? You can't remember? You're nodding yes. You know what I'm talking about. Anybody else?
Never.
Never? Okay, and you know what I'm talking about. Why do we get M-E-N-T at the end of a sentence? We wrote P-L-T. What is P-L-T? M-E-N-T ending. Suffix. How many of you think that's appropriate for captioning? This concept was created by captioners. And what they did was they redefined the period and the comma so that they could avoid that misstroke. By the way, Pam, I don't know if you teach this or not. PP for period. You do?
I do.
Is she wonderful? Yay.
I went to your seminar. Hey.
What's a comma?
Thank you. Okay.
What's
Yes.
a comma?
WB. What is the comma WB? It's not about W and B. It's about ergonomics. Middle finger, left and right side, very comfortable. Middle finger, left and right side, lower bank, WB. Upper bank, PP. Lower bank, WB. Very easy to write. It so happens that PP is physically located comfortably, and the word period starts with a P, so that happens to be a coincidence. But it's the ergonomics of it and how wonderful and easy it feels. So,
I've never heard of this before.
well, that's why you're here right now. I have a lot of things to teach you that you've never heard of. And you can ask Louis. Louis, did you hear a lot of things in the workshop that you've never heard of?
I'm not sure I'm wanting to do this for the last 5 or 6 years, change the period.
I don't blame you. She is really into too fast, can't fingerspell, can't change a period, and I understand. Absolutely.
I mean,
You're
I'm
very
not 30,
ingrained in what you
I'm
do.
not 30 or 35, you know.
Okay, now you know there is a rule book, and it says if you're over, I don't want to ask how old you are because you might not be silly like me and say, oh, I'm blah, blah, blah. But whatever your age is, we're going to pretend you're 48. How's that?
I'm way older than that.
What are you? Okay. 62?
60.
Oh, 60. Well, you don't look it, my dear. You look 48. All right, so there is a rule, just so you're going to feel very happy about the rule. The rule is if you're over 57 years old, you can't change.
Okay. Now we know how old she is.
And I invented a brand new career for myself this year, and I'm 70. And I rest my case. Don't you love it? I was single for a lot of years. Oh, I'm too old to be a man. I'm too fat. Men want slim, young, lovely, gorgeous women. And by the way, I did not engage in self-talk, but I see a lot of women who do. And I have to tell you, it was when I was 55 years old, I said to myself one day, I would like to meet a nice man and get married. I'd like to be married again. And honest to God, it was a month later when I met Jim. And he eyeballed me, he thought I was pretty. He wasn't my type. It was not what I was looking for, definitely not. No chin, I don't like a guy with a fat chin. And definitely way too old for me. I mean, it just wasn't what I looked for. 9 weeks later, we're married. And he thinks I'm beautiful. And I was heavier than I am now, and I'm still heavy. And he thinks I'm beautiful, always. How do you like that? What happened to the rules? Well, thank you. My point is, whatever rules you choose to put in your brain, you can. And I'm going to invite you to re-examine your rules and flush them down the toilet.
Well, okay, no, I really like some of the ideas about the asterisk, and some of those I already do.
Okay, great. And if there's anything new, the thought process, I could never do that, that really needs to be dismissed. You don't have to do it, absolutely. I can choose not to do it, you're fine. But to tell yourself things you can't do, I mean, really, do you tell little children all the things they can't do? If you don't talk that way to children, why do you talk that way to yourself? Do you tell a little 1-year-old gets up and takes a couple of steps and starts to walk and falls down? Did you fall down again? Why don't you just sit there and stay there? You'll never walk. You just can't walk. Can't. Get it? Okay. So, of course you get to do anything you choose to do. But if you're open-minded, you said you would be open-minded today. So she is trying to be open-minded. And what did Yoda say about trying? There is no try. You either do it or you don't. There is no try. I'm just being a little silly. Yes.
I always thought my machine was just out of adjustment. I never once thought it was me.
Well, absolutely, it's her machine. She said, I always thought my machine was out of adjustment. I never once thought it was me. I love it. I love it. So, you
But I'll
need a
be
new
trying to
machine,
beat
right?
me tomorrow.
Speaking of machines, if you have a new machine or a late model machine, or even if you have an old one, it is absolutely vital that you make sure your machine is tuned to your writing and that it is set properly. Many people struggle with real time, and it's a setting on their machine. So where do you get the information? I don't know. Try it on the phone. Try it, see if you can find somebody to help you with the settings, if you can. Okay? But anyway, so PP for period. I don't have a flip chart. I forgot to tell Jeff to bring me one. That's okay. We'll do it without a flip chart. I'm introducing a thought process for you. It's called the big ugly. What is a big ugly? A big ugly is something that appears on your screen that is, you won't believe this, are you ready? It is big and it is ugly. That's how I got its name, the big ugly. Actually, I made it up. But you know what? You're allowed to make up things too. I do a lot of private training, private coaching. If people work with me on their writing skills, there are reasons they don't want to come to a public workshop. Sometimes they don't want their cohorts to know what's really going on with them. Sometimes they don't want to ask questions about people they work with. They don't want to share their weaknesses, especially if there's going to be a judge coming in the court in a few months. Watching court reporters apply for an officialship. And I don't know. There are just different scenarios. But I do several private trainings with people. And I've worked with people through the years on this concept. So I'm telling you from experience. If I coach a person to try PP for the period and not use the FPLT anymore, here's what I suggest, and it's written in your book. You take the FPLT steno, redefine the English, go into your database or your dictionary, and find that FPLT entry and redefine the English. Do not keep it as a period. Because you're so used to writing it, you're always going to write that period. And it just translates. You don't think about it. You're just busy doing the rest of your life, period. If you redefine the FPLT to left brace, all caps, A period is P hyphen P right brace. Do you see that in the book? When you redefine that FPLT, guess what happens? About 200 times a day. I will go home. Oh, period is PP. Oh, that's right. And you're writing along. You're writing along and you forget. It takes about a day to a day and a half to break the habit. You get so irritated looking at that screen that it's helping the learning process. As you see the words come out, as you go physically and edit all of those periods out. Use this technique for all the things you change, if you can. If you can. And the thing is, using a big ugly just hastens the learning speed, and it's just great. People have loved it once they've gone through that process. So just sharing this little thought with you. A crazy way to change in writing, but it works. And put in, obviously, in the braces, if you're spelling a word like construction site differently, you would say SITE is written with the whatever you want to write yourself. Just make it big, make it a note to you. No worries about real time. Most of you don't do real time anyway, but some of you do. And if you do, no worries. No worries. But what if somebody sees it? And so what? First of all, most of the people are not looking at the screen. I know most of you are not writing real time, and I'm telling you, attorneys don't look at the screen. Judges don't look at the screen. They do too. Yeah, they do once in a while. You know when they look? When they miss something, and they need to just double check it. I know, but if they ever look, that will be the time I missed a word. Oh, the thinking that court reporters create. Folks, it is a wonderful thing to shift your thinking. We talked a lot about that this morning. I will not dwell on that now, and we will move on. Okay. So this is the technique, and tell me your name, please.
Carol.
Carol. Carol did make the switch to the PP, and she loves it. Folks, it doesn't take long. She did it in a week, the normal way, the oops, I forgot way. And that's okay too. It's all good. It's all good. But if you like this idea of a big ugly, within a day or two, you will have mastered something new. Okay? A bonus concept, if you have a stacking problem. Does anybody have a stacking problem? Yes, 2 people, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Some of you might need a new writer. Sometimes it's the writer. And I love it when companies who make writers say it's never the writer, it's the way you write. You're dragging your fingers. You've got to lift your fingers. Now, how come I had a smart writer or I had an X-scribe writer? Remember the old X-scribe, the 3 or the 3 plus, or what are those? Or a barren data writer? Do you know those are like the best writers in the world? They weigh a lot. They only weigh about 20 pounds. But that's okay. They write great. The writers were fabulous in those days. So how come you'd write a smart writer for years and years? You never even heard the word stacking, let alone do it. And then you get a brand new writer and, oops, look at that. And now the company tells you, well, you've got to lift your fingers. Well, how come I've been writing for 11 years and I never had any stacking problems before? And now all of a sudden I do with this writer. You've got to lift your fingers. I love it. I love it. Anyway. So, do you need a new writer? And there are writers out there that either eliminate or greatly reduce stacking. There are new writers out there where you still stack. That's not very exciting. You want to make sure your writer is tuned properly. I've already said that. Another thing you can do if you have a stacking problem, you want to activate both sides of the keyboard for an outline. What do you mean, Anita? Some of you have a stacking problem with the FPLT. You might be writing the next word, if it's the word it, for example, and you have initial T. You know, I will go home. It should not take me very long. I will go home, period, it. And you get the T on the same line as the FPLT. Are you with me? Okay. That's going to be eliminated when you change your period to PP. Cool? That's one technique. Another thing is, the FPLT is on the right side of the keyboard. I just said one way to eliminate or greatly reduce a stacking problem is to use both sides of the keyboard. You're not doing both sides if you have FPLT, only on one side. Another common stacking problem is final D, ED ending. Mommy braided Susie's hair. We write braid, B-R-A-I-D. Second stroke D. Is that right? That's what most of you do? Okay, great. I'm not going to get into the finite details of how you could do a D-E-D in one stroke and come up with interesting fingering combinations, which are fabulous once you master them. I'm not putting anything down, ever. I think these short strokes and phrases are fantastic, as long as you take the time to master them. But for now, we're going to use an example. Braided. Braid, second stroke D. Now, how many sides of the keyboard are you using when you hit that final D for the ED ending? The answer is 1. How many sides of the keyboard are you using when you hit the final D? 1. That's right, the right side. Got it? I just said if you use 2 sides of the keyboard, you will greatly reduce or eliminate stacking. If you redefine the ED, instead of just D, you can't do anything. You can do FD. You can do PD. You can do LD. You can do DD, TKD. You can do anything if you're using the left side of the keyboard and the D. So, some people choose to do DD. They kind of like the idea of D, and they'll do TKD. They redefine that as suffix ED. How many of you are not on Case Catalyst and you are not on Eclipse? Raise your hand. You are not on ProCap. Raise your hand. What are you on, Louis?
Stenovations.
Stenovations. Okay, stenovations, you know how to do your prefixes and suffixes. It's the word at the top that says prefix or suffix.
Right.
Okay, great. So here, follow me through, folks. If you're going to change your ED ending in your database, in your dictionary, to DD, use a big ugly. Do the final D and say, ED ending is TK-D, or ED ending is D-D. Put a big ugly for the final D. Retrain your brain and learn to write the ED ending using both sides of the keyboard. You will greatly reduce or eliminate that stacking problem.
Because then I would have a conflict grade had rather than.
You would have a conflict with what?
So I like this DD combo because graded for me might be grade had.
Yes, so she's using the final D for the word had. The braid had a not in it, okay? Well, she can't write braided and had. Another concept, one outline, one definition, remember? Real time, one outline, one definition. You do not use final D for had. Change your had. You can write had, H-A-D. Oh, how difficult is that? Or you could write had, initial H. Those are two ways to change your had. When you find that you have a word that doesn't tran beautifully, you have a thought process. I'm going to make a change. You follow me? Take these changes seriously because you have a lot of these misstroking types of words because it came from, see folks, in schools, who taught school? Well, people created theories, God love them. Without our teachers, we wouldn't have these wonderful professions that we do have. I know you've got struggle. I can talk all day long about how tough this profession is. I have to tell you, it is a magnificent profession. And some people love this work, and I think it's absolutely magical. How can people go to work part-time, have a wonderful living and raise their children and be there for the game and do the things they do? I could go on and on. So yes, I do talk about this fabulous profession. But what I want to share with you is who taught us? Teachers. Who were the teachers? How many of them were live court reporters out in the field? How many of them have academic degrees? How many of them learned theory? You said that at your other school, they taught you theory. When I teach my real-time workshops, I teach something called reality real-time. I do not tell you to lift your fingers and to arch them perfectly. I do not tell you, don't drag your L's. I've heard real-time people say, you should not drag your L's, just lift your fingers better. Well, the truth of the matter is I drag my L's. I always have, I always will. Everybody else drag their L? You better raise your hand. I'll make you feel bad. So I've learned how to write with my L being dragged. I call that reality real-time. What is it that you do? What is your reality? Change the computer settings and the definitions to what you do, not what looks pretty on a piece of paper. So that's the general idea here. So going back and completing with our DD, if you decide to change your final D suffix and add something on the left side of the keyboard, you will greatly eliminate or reduce the stacking. Yes?
What comes to my mind, because to use the other hand, would be to come back with the asterisk with the left with the final D. And that would always be an ED ending.
Okay, that's an excellent suggestion. She can use the asterisk with the left hand. Will your software read it as a left hand?
Oh.
Oops, minor detail. I love your thinking. You're on the right track. However, you might be better off picking a letter. Is it hard to learn? You better believe it. Will you remember it? Of course not. That's not the point. We're thinking future. Are you willing to invest a few days of discomfort to create something new? Because you can be comfortable with a new concept down the road. Okay? But I like the way you were thinking. In her mind, she used the left. Oh, that's good. That was tricky. Was that tricky? That was great. All right. Easy to remember conflict solutions. Use EA for AE words. Follow the English spelling where applicable. I'll give you an example. Do you like to go to Neil Diamond concerts? N-W-D-I-A-M-O-N. N-E-I-L, right? Yeah, N-I-E-L, N-E-I-L. N-E-I-L, Neil. Right, N long E-L. Neil Armstrong, that fabulous astronaut, did a great job. N-E-A-L. How about N-A-E-L? Yes, an asterisk in proper names. You can do N-A-E-L with the asterisk for Neil Armstrong. You can do N long E-L with an asterisk for Neil Diamond. Follow the English spelling where applicable. You can delete a vowel or add an asterisk for obvious words such as him. I saw him walk down the street yesterday. And what's your point? Well, you don't even think about it. You don't even know what I'm talking about. Anita, that's just a simple sentence. That's nothing. I saw him walk down the street. But if I said, I heard them sing a beautiful hymn in church, no question you would put an asterisk. You could write H-I-M with the asterisk because it's spelled H-Y-M-N. There's a silent letter. When you have words that have kind of goofy letters, a Y, a K, a Q, one of those types of letters, you could put an asterisk. I'm going to take a peek around the corner. P-E-E-K. The mountain peak is very tall. P-E-A-K, P-A-E-K. And, you know, what she said started to pique my interest. And folks, that word pique my interest is spelled P-I-Q-U-E. I cannot tell you how many people spell it P-E-A-K. You read books, you might have picked it up. I see it all the time. P-E-A-K. Do you know that was on one of the WKTs? I think it was my CCP, the certificate, the Certified Card Provider Test. It was an academic word on the written knowledge test. The word P, how do you spell it? So, anyway, with the letter Q, very easy to remember, at an asterisk, very crazy spelling, unusual word when it has one of those types of letters in it. Another thought process on instant recall when you put the asterisk. Make sense? Let's see. We got, oh, yeah. This is good. Great, okay, let's keep going. NK word endings, we're offering you a suggestion if you come back with the K. We're offering you, we all know the NG, PBG. That's comfortable. We can all write PBG. Add the index finger. Add the index finger. And write FR, PBG. And you can define those words that end in FR, PBG, and K by using that steno stroke. Questions or comments about that? Yes.
That's another one that I incorporated very quickly.
Beautiful.
It sounds weird and you think it's weird, but because it was ink or link or link, you know, or ring. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, no way. But it's automatic now. You just add it in. I know it looks weird and feels weird at first, but it becomes so automatic when you're thinking about no more conflicts that index finger just drops down.
Thank
That
you.
was, to me, that was one of the best changes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Carol talked about using this concept, and she made the change after she was so used to writing it differently, and it came to her not too long, and she loves it. That's the bottom line. So please know that these are ideas that are out there. These are standard theories that are being taught today, by the way. And you folks are going to love it because you have a lot of older type teachings. So anyway. Okay, great. Use an asterisk in prefixes but not suffixes. That's just a thought process. If you like it, use it. What if you use an asterisk in suffixes all the time? Keep it. Don't change it. That's part of STEM theory. They talk about asterisks and suffixes. They don't call them suffixes. They call them, I don't know, word endings to attach to the word in front of it. Quarterback, halfback. They want you to do the word back with an asterisk for a quarterback if you're writing that as one word. And that's great. Don't change it. Just because this piece of paper says use an asterisk in a prefix, this is a guideline. So use your own common sense and don't make your life harder than you need to. Thank you very much, Carol, for sharing that with the group. Okay, I hope you're encouraging them. It's not
I
me,
hope
it's
so
her.
too, because it's scary, but I promise you, it really doesn't take that long. I mean, you
It's
have
not
to
only-
practice, but
yeah,
like
you
said,
might-
just sit down and master it and over and over.
Yes,
and over.
yes. And it's not only possibly scary, but you can change that self-talk too. Say, I'm going to enjoy this. It actually becomes fun. Because don't you think, some of you are writing real time, don't you think it's a lot of fun to be editing on the job all day while you're out there making up fun things? And I don't know, for me it made me stay awake better. Okay. Anita, did you ever sleep on the job? I take the fifth. Okay. Define prefixes and suffixes perfectly utilizing your software company's correct definition. ProCat, you use the tilde. Eclipse, you use the left wiggle bracket or the brace. You write the prefix, DIS, PRE, whatever it is, then the caret, and then the right wiggle brace. You all know what I'm talking about, Eclipse? Yes, no? Is anybody on Eclipse in this room? Thank you. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know the correct way to define a prefix. And the suffix? We're good. Thank you. Yes.
You can also do, when you're defining something, and you go for special settings, like control, and they'll all be there for you, like, you know, if you forget how to do it.
Great. If you forget how to do it in Eclipse, you can do a special settings view instantly, anytime you want. And that's what? Control what?
Control E, I think.
Try Control E. See if that works for you. Great. Thank you very much. I love the tips. Okay, case catalyst. Your definition for a prefix is you write the prefix, the DIS or the PRE. Then you either go to your drop-down menu near the very bottom, it will say prefix and the shortcut symbol is the small x. In the format symbol, you do that when you are doing a D define or a J define. Are you all with me on this? Case catalyst. All right, let me tell you why I am emphasizing this right this minute. Many people on Case Catalyst came from, thank you, many people came from Premier Power. The way you defined a prefix or a suffix in Premier Power was a delete space. I cannot emphasize this enough to you. Case Catalyst people, do not use a delete space, okay? You can go into your filter and look for every instance where you have a delete space. If you wrote a stroke for a delete space, it's perfect. That's it. We suggest DLS, takes away a space, DLS steno, delete space definition, perfect. Keep it, that's it. If you see any delete space strokes in prefixes or suffixes, they should come out. They should be defined properly. That's the reason I'm mentioning this. Okay? All right, so I drop the vowel sometimes, apply the J and Y principle, tweak the vowel, etc. Use the KWR or the Y if a suffix begins with a vowel. You can also use that for words that begin with a vowel, like ink. And I don't know why that H is so big, but it is. Use a J in prefixes where appropriate. Y's, drop the vowel where appropriate. Jeff, you really messed up my hand. You know, what did he do? You don't think I'm going to take responsibility for that, do you? A bonus concept, delete stroke space, I just talked about it. Add a space, you can do SPZ. Inflected endings are listed here. It is always a great idea to define endings. Shortcuts for alphabets. Folks, you can write alphabets in different ways, but the bottom line here is know your software. Your software might have automated ways to write an alphabet. Know your software. Try it out. I tried mine. I used automatic alphabets with my software. I personally did not like it. I went back to my old way. Some people love it. Test it out. Know your software. Are you writing years in single strokes? If not, I suggest you do. We've offered you ideas. Here are ideas how you can write words. If you use words for your numbers, here are suggestions how you can write up to 2020 in words. If you use the number bar on the next page, page 8, there are suggestions to use the number bar. And how about apostrophe year? Single strokes. things you're writing often. It is a lot of fun to learn a system of single strokes. This is here, it's written out for you. Take your time with your writer, set yourself up in real time, and try these out. See what you think. Invent your own ideas. Practice it. And Carol's already told you when you make a change, it's so much fun. So, does this make sense, folks? Single strokes for these. And on the very last page, we have create briefs on the fly. I promised you I would tell you, what are we going to do with this? Do you work for Amalgamated Steel and Pipeline Incorporated, Inc.? Yes, I work for Amalgamated Steel and Pipeline Incorporated, Inc. How long have you worked for Amalgamated Steel and Pipeline Incorporated, Inc.? It's about the third time you want to punch it. You want to stop saying that. My suggestion is create a wild card. OIG, OIG. There is a wild card. I've actually worked for OIG for 12 years. Did you ever leave OIG? Now you might say to yourself, well, if I write OIG, it's not going to look good in real time. Trust me. Your OIG is not going to look any worse than the way you botched up that long name and written a million strokes that don't trans. So the idea is write something that is simple to remember, easy to write, and most important of all, cut your editing time. Cut your editing time at globals. You don't need amalgate steel, steel, inking. You don't need to invent whatever it is. Your cockamamie way is that you write a goofy long word or series of words. Oid. And you can do soy, loy, doy, boy, joy, boy, joy. Have you ever had a salpingo oophorectomy? Yes, I had a salpingo oophorectomy. What year did you have your soy? Actually, my soy was in 1953. Would you recommend a soy to other women? Never. But you see what I'm saying? And your end user, if they're looking at it, believe me, they know what it is. They don't care. They understand your goofy new phrase. But it comes instantly, easy to write. Does this make sense, folks? So, this completes our portion of the Just Justice Seminar. I want to thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your participation. I admire you that you are here. We're going to have a wonderful lunch, and it's a working lunch, so we get out a little early. Is that good news? Okay. Jeff.
Anita, let's get her here. So we're going to leave in a few minutes and still setting up the lunch. And so just so you know what's going to happen, there's one or two of you that are leaving now because you're just here for the 4 hours or so, and I'll meet you in the back when we break and give you your letter of completion. Everybody else will get theirs after serving their time.
Where did you fly in from?
Me?
Yeah.
San Diego?
She flew in from San Diego to be here. Is that what the plan is? Thank you. That's huge. Thank you.
You came here just to see me,
No,
right?
I could do webinars all day long, but it's nothing like being here. It's just really nice.
And this is where you get the network, you get to see people that you don't normally get to see. We were talking before with some of the people. As a comedian, when I was a headliner comedian, I never saw any of the other comedians because we were all working, and we're all working different clubs at the same time. So
I'll introduce you to Willie Tolly. I know, but it's easy.
You can sing like that. I'll do that.
I know.
Great voice. So it's great. And then basically, our online courses wound up really filling a real void that people had where family members get sick, you can't go, you run out of time. What amazed me, though, was how many RPRs that need 30 hours every 3 years in December are going, do you have any 30-hour programs? Procrastinate a little bit. Actually, my favorite one was last year, and I won't mention any names, but it was a Texas court reporter. And they ordered our 10-hour course at 10 a.m. on New Year's Eve and finished it at 10 p.m. that night to make it right under the line. So, and also, I don't go on vacation after between Christmas and New Year's, because we get about 80 to 90 people that are sending in their quizzes. So usually we turn it around within 24 hours, sometimes within an hour or so. But always at just, a very short period of time, so you can take it right up to that point. I just talked to Cheryl at the CRCB, and this is the definitive answer to this question. What the heck do you do with your completion letter? Because it changes all the time. First of her advice is anytime you take a seminar, go to the website and check to see if something's changed. All right, because it does change. It changed for us this year too. But as of right now, when you get your letter, send it in. Okay, so go ahead and do that process. It used to be you just held on to your letter, and if you ever got audited, you had to produce it. They're not doing that anymore, or at least they're not doing it for right now. So she said the safe thing is everybody send in a copy of your letter. You'll of course hold a copy for yourself. And if you ever lose letters, and I actually hit a record last month in Dallas, somebody had lost it by the time they got home. They didn't even get home with it. It's real easy for me to produce another letter for you, and I usually get 40 or 50 people between Christmas and New Year's Eve.
See, and at my workshops, when I give people completion letters or for their state association, I send them to NCRA, but for their state, I tell them, here is your certificate, keep it. If you call my office and want a duplicate, it's going to cost you $150.
Oh, yeah. I'm much nicer than you. Don't you think?
And I say I'm kidding, but the idea is, take care of it. We used to be inundated with calls, and then the call stopped.
I usually tell them when they call up and say I lost my letter, I'm saying, sorry, you're going to have to become a lawyer. That's your punishment. So, again, we're going to break. I'm going to have Carrie come up here because it's going to be a working lunch. And if you do this exercise during lunch, then we can come back here ready for you to do the second part of it, and we will have an hour out of the way, 45 minutes depending on when we finish lunch. Lunch is going to be right down the hallway here. If you've been here before, it's a great sandwich buffet lunch, so you're welcome to have as much as you like. So, yeah.
Yes, Manny, thank you so much. This is the Toyota guy.
Timing. Don't let us get in your way. All right, so she just also walked out with the microphone, so you're going to have to use the big girl voice, okay?
Hi, my name is Carrie. I'm going to be your next presenter. We're going to be talking about punctuation proofreading. So it is a working lunch, so just go to transcription tells and do the 5 sections as much as you can get done. When we come back from lunch, we'll go over the answers, okay?
So we're just going to do everything from transcription
As
tells?
much as you can, because I know you're eating and bathroom and everything, but just answer as much as you can during lunch, and we'll come back about.
So we're going to shoot to come back at 12:45, okay? And, if we can get earlier, great. Right now we have the clock set for 6 o'clock getting out. If with the working lunch and stuff like that, we can possibly move it a little closer. That's okay with you?
I missed it. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I missed your voice or something. But you want us to do the
Transcription
proofreading
tells.
here
This is
The exercises in there.
before lunch?
Well, we're going to go and get our food, and you can take breaks and stuff.
Yeah, we've got
Just
tables
sit
sit down there for us, so just
Yeah.
bring your book and your pen with you
Okay.
to lunch.
And my glasses.
And anything else?
That's it.
Okay, great. So go get on. Don't worry about it. They just mix it all in there.
He went to get a cowboy hat, isn't it?
I went to the Alamo.
Welcome. How you doing? Well, great. Welcome to the Jeff Justice Seminar program featuring Anita Paul Johnson. How many people have seen Anita before? So she'll be doing completely different programs this morning, which you will love, on shortcuts and peak performance. So Anita will be the morning part of the program up to about noon. We're going to take lunch at noon, from noon to 1 o'clock. It's going to be a working lunch. So what we always like to do is try to cut down on time. Is anybody have a problem with getting out early? No? We cover all the work, we just cut down on breaks and wherever we can and try to get you out here at a decent time. And then Terry will work with you for lunch and after lunch, then we'll have ethics after that, and then I will finish up to date at the end of the program. We have coffee in the back all day long. We'll have some snacks back there later. We'll have a cookie break later on in the day. Those are the important things: food, coffee, snacks, caffeinated, hydrated food, okay, important parts of the seminar. And yeah, come on in. We got plenty of room here. Raise your hand if you have empty seats near you. Okay, you might want to check her out before you raise your hand first. Yeah, okay. People do that, don't they?
No, that's the airlines.
Is that the airlines?
Yes.
Like the big sweaty guy sitting next to it, isn't it, Kevin?
We have, yes, and Jim did a Tim Gard deal once. Tim Gard is a brilliant speaker, and he talks about airlines. And Jim did it. It was we were cracking our heads off. He takes, as our people are filtering in trying to find a seat, and I'm at the window seat, he's at the aisle seat, and there's an empty seat in the middle. And we all know how we love to have a free seat in the middle. Jim takes the barf bag, and as people are walking down, he's going, and we had the empty seat.
It'd be great to have like a little ventriloquist baby too, just sit there. Okay, so you will be starting off with peak performance this morning?
Yes.
Okay, because it's 8 o'clock in the morning, we need to be peak, right? All right, so without any further ado, we're going to do a break somewhere around 10. Okay,
Great.
Finishing up around 11:45.
Okay, do you want to do, 11:45, that's great, sure. Because that gives me time to get to the airport. Great.
So if you don't know Anita, she is considered by me and by her minions the queen of real time, and she's been having cruises and seminars. If you ever want to be a real time reporter, know more about it, she has a 4-day course which will just amaze you with the information and the skill level you'll have when you finish that. But we have a tip here today on peak performance and shortcuts, or famous shortcuts to make you a faster, better writer. So without any further ado, a nice round of applause for Anita Paul Johnston.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Gosh, welcome. And so early in the morning. How do you look so fabulous so early? My goodness. How many of you have been to one of my workshops before? Great, okay. How many of you have been to any type of a presentation I've ever given before? Good, I just wanted to know if I could still repeat myself. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I do repeat myself on purpose all the time. Because you don't pay attention, you don't listen. You're not bad, you're human. As people, our minds wander. Why do you think they have commercials every 8 minutes on TV? It's a very normal phenomenon. I go to a lot of seminars myself. I miss things. We all do. And we all know that when we're learning something, we love to get a little bit of repetition, because the more we repeat a process 2, 3, 4, 5 times, the better we absorb and get it. I'm really big on this concept when we hear a new brief or a new phrase. We're going to talk about that the second half of the morning, but because it's on my mind, I will mention it. It is absolutely vital to master anything new, to review it, to go over it, over and over it. One of the greatest problems we have as court reporters in not writing faster is we hesitate. And when you hesitate, you drop. And that means that there was something that you did not write perfectly instantly. When you hesitate and you go back, sometimes 4 or 5 words, 10, 15 words, whatever it might be, you will see that there was either a phrase or a word that you hung up on. Something was difficult fingering. You weren't positive about something. And if you take a few moments and analyze where there could be a hesitation, you could see that if you work on a different fingering or work on a word or a phrase, over and over and over again slowly. Work on it. There are times I've spent 2 hours on a phrase. And when you do the work and you master something and you eventually can write it better, you are speed building and you are perfecting your writing. That fingering will come up down the road at another time and you will have done the work. So you will zip right through it. Does this make sense? So don't shortchange yourself by being anything less than excellent. Because can you imagine a sports star who makes the 7-figure incomes not taking some aspect of the game seriously? And I like to hold all of you as superstars. So we might not be sports stars, but we are superstar court reporters. And this is something that, for me personally, I would love to see you take very seriously when you hang up on something. Anita, this is the peak performance part. Okay. I will save the rest of that for later. We're going to talk about writing shortcuts later. All right. You all have a handout. I am Anita Paul. On October 30, 1999, I met a lovely gentleman by the name of Jim, and 9 weeks later we were married. That's how I became Anita Paul Johnston. And it's almost 15 years. So he's here. Jim, would you come on up here for a minute? I'd like to introduce you. About 2 weeks after we were married, I was speaking at the Idaho State, some kind of a presentation for the government in Idaho, and we're newlyweds, and you know how newlyweds are. Hi, honey, hi, sweetie, all of that. And I just said, honey, could you hand me that book? And he gave it to me, and somebody heard me say that, and another court reporter said, oh, hi, honey, would you hand me that pen? And another court reporter overheard and said, hey, honey, how you doing? Before you know it, he became honey. And at all of my workshops, I share this, and women, men, people call him honey. You can call him Jim, you can call him honey, and I am just delighted to introduce Jim Johnston, my sweetheart, and I will tell you that if there's anything you need, if he can get anything for you, he's happy to. If you need anything at a snack shop or at Radio Shack, we have a car, and he will be happy to go and do anything he can for you.
I'm not happy, but I'll do it.
Honey!
Anyway, we were, right after we got married, we were at a hotel. I was in a bar talking with some guys. A few court reporters walked by and they saw me and they said, hi, honey. I said, hi, sweetheart. And a few minutes later, a couple more court reporters walked by, hi, honey. And the guy I was talking to said, what kind of business did you say you were in? Anyway, so yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody need a handout? That's why I brought this in. There's always somebody that forgot to get a handout. I guess everybody got a handout. See you later.
Thank you. How many CRRs do we have in the room? How many people have taken the CRR and have not passed it? Oh, my friends. Okay, thank you. How many times have you taken it? Twice?
Once.
Oh, once. And how about you?
Me?
Yes.
Once.
Okay, great. The reason I call them my friends, I took the CRR 4 times. Do you know what that means? It means that I failed it 3 times. And you know what that means? That means I'm an expert. I was going to do a seminar called How to Fail the CRR. I know all about that. And I come from experience. And back in the school days when I was taking my normal monthly school testing to graduate different speed levels, I wonder if you could relate. You're writing and writing. It's not bad. It's not bad. And then you go, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. And then the fingers turn to lead. They don't move. You drop. But you don't just drop a little bit. I didn't drop 3 words. I dropped 3 sentences. And as soon as I drop 3 sentences, I know I failed a test. Then what happens? we go back to our relaxed writing and don't miss another comma. So what happens? Physically, emotionally, and mentally. We're at the bottom of page 1. These are not page numbered. Okay. What happens to us? We're going to talk a little bit about this process of what happens autonomically to our bodies. Why do we do that? We want to pass the test. We want to pass it so badly. Why do people choke under pressure? I will tell you that our greatest athletes, our greatest swimmers, ice skaters, peak performers in every walk of life, golfers, people choke under pressure. And we're going to talk about this phenomenon, why it happens and what can you do about it. There are techniques that superstars have learned to master. I have actually a webinar called, well, it's a peak performance webinar, Master Stress Under Tests. And the research that's been done has been a lot of what champions have applied, and tennis champions, especially from the Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy in Bradenton, Florida. It is a phenomenon that can be controlled, that can be harnessed. I don't have time to give you that seminar today, but what I am going to do is give you some general ideas, a couple of things that just about every superstar I know about uses. And why fight it? If there is a technique that works for some people, why not try it? It's free, and that's a good thing. And you can certainly read more about it, and chances are you've heard all about it. So if you've heard about something, it's easy to implement. It doesn't cost you any money. How about using it? You might say to yourself, oh, I hope it's not that hooey-dooey stuff, you know, where you gotta imagine and you meditate or do some of these things that you might not believe in. And the world really doesn't care what you believe in because it's really not about your belief system. It's about what works. It's about what is a wonderful thing to do as a human being. We're going to talk about some of those things. So as we go through our morning session, hopefully you will walk away with some ideas and strategies to implement. And you can use this in your daily life, as well as when you might be taking a test or when you might be doing something that could be considered fearful. For example, how many of you do not like public speaking? I know you're out there. Raise your hands. Oh, good. I wanted to know who to call on. Okay, so a lot of people don't like public speaking. And it's understandable. It's what they say the second greatest fear that people have. Does the world really care? What if you are working for a court system and you are asked to give a presentation on court reporting and sing the praises of the value of a live, highly trained court reporter, or another form of capturing the record to assist the court administrators and the powers that be to invest in either this or that? And how exciting is it to say, oh, I hate public speaking. I don't like giving presentations. That doesn't go over very well. If you are in a position or you are asked to give a presentation, one simple thought is that you can change your self-talk. Change your self-talk. I'm open to new possibilities. I'm not telling you to love public speaking. I'm just saying, let's shift the thinking. What can I do to give an effective presentation? Doesn't that feel a little different than, I hate it? Do you understand what I'm saying? What are possibilities? What can I do? I love possibility thinking. As a matter of fact, I'm also a life coach, so some of these ideas will pop in as I present to you. But for example, if somebody's just getting a divorce, do we cry and do we moan and groan and do we just feel so horrible about our lives and this and that? And how could he? Or how could she? And all of these different thoughts that we have. And at some point in time, when you've grieved or gone through whatever it is you go through, it's time to pick yourself up by the bootstraps, move forward. And I love possibility thinking. It's called next step. And it could be a year later, it could be 7 months later, it could be 2 weeks later. I have a dear friend who just filed for divorce a few weeks ago. She's got her whole new life planned out. She's very good to her ex-husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband. And she's kind and supportive, and he's all organized and set up. She assisted, and she's got her next step planned already. So why am I talking about these things? Because there is so much power in our minds. We can control and do anything. And whatever's working in your life, that's great. Whatever isn't, if there's a lacking, the good news is there is a possibility of something different to assist you in getting through whatever that next step might be. So let's just go to our first page. Amazing and effective P. Anybody have an idea what P might be? Preparation. I would be derelict to talk about peak performance if I did not emphasize and talk about preparation. Does that mean that if you were in school and you're trying to pass your 225, that, you got one 3 weeks ago? The 200's a little fast, but you had one lucky day? I don't think so. You want to practice and practice and get up to that 240 or 250 range and strengthen your speed building. There are 3 steps to speed building that I like to recommend. And if you remind me, I'll be happy to share them with you. Okay, so that's all right. So anyway, but the thing is, when you have solid quality preparation and you're going to take a test, you've at least got a fighting chance. Control and generating E and EC. These are the 2 aspects of the single or double most important factors that champions master. I have a 7-step process of mastery when you get into peak performance. But for me to pick 2, these are the first 2. I almost don't like to say it at the beginning because I like to build up to it and share different thoughts and then tell you what the 2 absolute, vital, most powerful factors are to master. Does anybody have an idea what E and EC might stand for? Anybody want to take a guess? Okay, I'm fine with that. Don't, it's okay. Play safe, and that's okay. And you might not know. You might really not have an idea what I'm talking about. E stands for energy. Energy. We need energy in whatever it is we do in life. And EC stands for?
Emotional control.
Yes! Excellent. Absolutely. Emotional control. Emotional control in all walks of life. And folks, if you have a short fuse and if you have a big temper, don't do road rage. Find another way. It's so terrifying to see what happens when some people display road rage. It amazes me. It makes me laugh. You're driving down the road and somebody cuts in front of you, or you could use the word cut. Personally, they just drive in front of you. What do? That jerk! What an idiot! He drove right in front of me. He cut me off. And I want you to know something. The driver of that other car had been thinking about it for about an hour. And he found your car and said, now how can I upset that? How can I piss that person? Let me think. I know, if I go right in front of them, they'll get really mad. What is this kind of thinking or conversation to yourself? You call them names, you're upset, and what happens when you get upset? The cortisol is in your body. Are you releasing more and more cortisol? We all need cortisol. It comes from the brain, right? But we don't need too much cortisol. That's a danger zone. Why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you doing something that you are telling yourself that's going to live in your body for the next several hours, possibly up to 12 hours, and you're the one suffering? And that person is listening to the music or having a gay old time driving off. It just kind of amazes me, this thought process. Anyway, I won't go off on that. But thinking and operating in the present, yes, is absolutely key. What do I mean by operating in the present? Of course we're in the present, we're right now. When we're writing and our fingers turn to clay or to lead pipes and we stop writing or we get nervous or we get something that overcomes us and we freeze or our fingers shake, I don't know, does the heart beat? Do the palms get sweaty? Do you get anxiety? Do you get a little pit in your stomach? You're writing and writing and all of a sudden things happen to you. Usually the thoughts are going to, I'm getting it. That's the future. Are you sitting down when you take a test and you say to yourself, you know, I just can't take tests for the life of me. I'm a terrible test taker. Can anybody relate to that little self-talk? I certainly did. And for me to pass the California CSR, I'm from California originally, and for me to pass that test, it was similar to Texas. California, Nevada, Texas, they all have very difficult either CSRs or CCRs. And they have very low pass rates also. You folks here, how many of you are not Texas CSRs? Raise your hand. Really? Okay. You're not. Okay.
California.
You're Hey, my buddy here. Okay, so you went through the process, and do you report in Texas?
No.
Oh, you came to just visit.
I flew to see you.
Pardon?
I flew to see you. I'm Jeff.
I'm going to buy you lunch. She said, I came to see you. That is lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes.
I was just going to say, I'm certified in California and Texas.
Really? Wow, that's
So
fabulous.
I lived out there for a long time, but now I'm back here.
What part of California?
Southern, I worked at LA, Orange County.
I'm from LA. LA Superior Municipal Court for 17 years. Okay, that's great. But the thing is, you know the process, and you know if some of you took the test maybe more than once, and we understand this. What are some of the strategies we can do to master this stress? And not only that, let's assume that many of you are here and you're not going to take a test. So you're interested in peak performance, or you are here because you're getting your credits, and if that's the only reason you're here, that's wonderful. We welcome you. We are thrilled that you're here, and as long as you're breathing, you get your credits, so you're good. But seriously, you can use some of these ideas and techniques in other environments. Are you going to give a speech somewhere else? Perhaps for a charity that you represent, and you're going to be talking to people to inspire them to donate more money. Do you have to perhaps interview? Are you going to interview for a new job? Are you going to interview in front of court administrators and judges and court reporters to see if you might get hired for something? So you never know what's coming up for you in your future, in any walk of life. And what we're going to talk about this morning are factors and strategies that work throughout your life. Okay? So we already know that it's very important to prepare. We also know that it's very important to control and generate strong energy with emotional control, and we want to operate in the present. When you're operating in the past, it's futile. And you call that evidence. I can never pass a test. I just have such a hard time doing these things. That's the past. And you can continue that story. You can continue to tell yourself that. And you might say to yourself, Anita, you don't understand. This is not a story. This is the truth. I know me. You don't know me. I know what I go through. And you may continue that story also. Because we are all growing. And we know about IQ, intelligence quotient. Usually that peaks out at about the age of 14 or 15 years old. And whatever your IQ is by the time you are a teenager, that's your IQ for life. That's it. Another aspect of our being is EQ. EQ EQ stands for emotional control or emotional development. And it sounds weird to call it Q, but it is, okay? And what this refers to is our ongoing growth and ongoing changes throughout life. It does not cap at a teenage year. We all, and you know that because where were you 20 years ago? Where were you 15 years ago? What was your thinking process? What did life teach you? How did you change? We are all able to embrace all kinds of thought processes. All right, so we know now here the thought process. You've been practicing, rehearsing, preparing, and you feel very qualified to do a great job. Pass that test, ace the performance, the presentation, the interview. 2 minutes into the event, you realize you're nailing it. Your thoughts slightly jar you from the steady stream of consciousness, and boom, you what? See. Choke. Yes, you choke. So what happens? Your mind has wandered to the past or the future. You want to stay in the present. If you're taking some kind of a test in court reporting, what you want to do is focus on the words that you hear and magnify them. Make every word louder and louder and louder. If you are listening to an audio recording or you are listening to somebody live, giving you the material that you're supposed to be writing for a test or whatever it is. Or are the television cameras on you? You're in trial. It's a very high-profile case. You're being interviewed by the news media. You're being hounded. You've got those cameras on you. You're very uncomfortable. You've got your coffee, and you've got your snack, and you've got a few things on your desk. Oh gosh, they might be on the camera. They're going to be on the news tonight. Maybe I better hide them. I don't know. You're thinking of whatever it is you're thinking of. And whatever it is, you're not very comfortable. Are you writing your best? Chances are you're not. So what can you do? When you are writing, what you want to do is magnify the sound of every word. For example, let's say this is part of the testimony you are taking. All great philosophers have studied and embraced the effects of humor on the quality of our lives. So let's say you're writing that. What you want to do in your mind's mind's eye, is to say something to yourself like, all great philosophers have studied and embraced the effects of humor on the quality of our lives. You want to overdo every word. You want to overemphasize it until your mind will go from the hearing to the fingers. And you want to focus on every word. Every other thought goes out.
Can you do that for 2 hours straight?
Can you do that for 2 hours straight? What do you think?
I can't.
Wonderful. You're right. Anybody? Anybody think you can? Because if you do, you're right also. You get to write your own script. And is it important to do it for 2 hours, or is it important to do it for the next minute? You see what I'm saying? Because we all know this. Once we get past those hurdles or the yucky part that we're hearing, we settle into a rhythm again. How many times do we write and we have no idea what we wrote? We were unconscious. I was in Hawaii. I'm going to Hawaii in 3 weeks. Oh gosh. And then we're going to go take a nice little cruise. You know, we're writing. Have you ever had the experience in court or in a deposition where they say, either Mr. or Ms. Reporter, would you read that back? And you say to yourself, oh my gosh, I didn't write anything. I don't even know what they were talking about. And in the olden days, we picked up paper notes. And for you young people, this is what we mean by paper. And we would pick up our notes and read, and it was flawless. Absolutely perfect, right? So there's a lot that we can do with our minds that we might not be conscious of. You're not asked to do 2 hours straight. You're asked to do 2 minutes straight or 1 minute straight. When you start to run into trouble, use this as a technique. It does work. It has worked for many people. And just sharing thoughts with you. I'm going to be saying several things today. I'm going to share a lot of thoughts with you. You might disagree with me. And I want to tell you something. If you disagree with what I say, I love it. I absolutely love it. Why would I say that? Because I'm only one person. I have my ideas, I have my thoughts, I have my research, I have my data, my empirical data, and I'm going to share with you my best. I am not perfect. There are so many other points of view, and that brings me to the next thought process here for today. I would love to hear from you. I'm going to make a few requests. Number one, that you be willing to be open-minded and try new things. Is there anybody who is not willing to be open-minded? Raise your hand. Okay, so we're okay. You're willing to be open-minded and try new things. Another request I'm going to make is that you ask questions. If you get a thought of a question, oftentimes people in a seminar will say something like, I wonder if, oh, I better not ask that. I'm going to look so stupid. Folks, the only stupid thing is a person with a question who comes to a learning environment, in this case a seminar, and you don't ask because you're fearful for how you look. I will tell you, I might make an idiot of myself up here. I might look so stupid by the end of this morning session because sometimes I do silly, goofy, dumb things to help you remember. And I have no problem with that. If you think I look ridiculous, I'm fine with that. I'm not up here to look good. I'm not up here to look fancy. Okay, well, I got jewelry and I brush my hair. I'm not saying that I'm going to come looking like a rag lady, but if you think I'm ridiculous, I'm fine with that. Anything that would help you to learn or connect or to remember something, I'm on board for that. That's what I'm here for. And all of you, I just have to tell you, I'm not blowing smoke. You can look around and see that this is true. You look fabulous. I mean, you are dressed so beautifully and so professionally and wonderfully. So really, it's just a joy for me to see people showing up, looking as you all do. And I love it. Anyway, the point is, if you ask a question, odds are somebody else is going to say, oh, I was wondering the same thing too. You ever get that experience when people will ask a question? So I am going to encourage you and ask that you please share any questions. And if you have another thought, if I'm sharing a little story with you and that reminds you of something that you've experienced or you would like to tell the group, we would love to hear from you. We are limited today in our topics. We're doing peak performance and we're doing writing techniques. You might have some great writing ideas when we get to that chapter later in the morning. But in our workshops, in our real-time mastery workshops, we have so many more categories, and we talk a lot about how to handle difficult people and things like that. And some people will share a difficult attorney or a difficult judge. Oh, I think they said to me, in Texas there are no difficult judges and there are no difficult attorneys. Is that right? You have no challenges with people here. Is that right? Okay, well, we know that that's universal. And I wonder if in their conventions they talk about difficult court reporters. No. Okay, but anyway, please feel free to join in. I would love to share thoughts with you and have you share with the group. We would all love to hear from you. My last request of everybody is that there is no side talking, no texting. That could be very distracting to people, and I'll be honest with you, I get distracted. Sometimes I lose my place. As a matter of fact, where was I? Would you read that back? But sometimes I do, and you know what? I don't apologize for it. I have earned the right to lose my place because I am getting older. And I don't know if you're like me. Sometimes I go to a seminar and I say to myself, I wonder how old he is. I wonder how old she is. People wonder those things. And I have no problem telling you. I will share with you that this year I turned 70. So, thank you. Oh, yeah. subcategories. And we always move forward with what we do have. Now, if you ask me my weight, I will guarantee you I will lie. That I will not be quite so candid about. Okay, but are we all okay with that? No texting, no side talking? Wonderful. On our next page, creative thought, control, humor. I know I do not need to tell any of you here how important humor is because you are at a Jeff Justice seminar. Jeff Justice is a master at humor. He teaches humor. He has achieved a very high, respectable level of being a humor expert in the world, in the National Speakers Association. He is brilliant. You are in for a very fun day. His whole approach to life is about having fun, and it's like, why not? Why not? So we're going to talk a lot more about humor later, but as you can interject some humor in your day, you are helping the health of your body. And I'm not going to belabor this. I mentioned cortisol. I don't think I need to tell anybody the importance of emotional control. We must take care of ourselves. We absolutely must. Do you come home stressed day after day? Have you lost control of your time? People want more time in a day. Everyone gets the exact same number of hours in a day. So is it the number of hours in the day that you don't have enough of? Or is there something you are doing that is harming your productivity and mindset regarding your time? What can you do to change that? What can you do to let go and relax and to allow time to not eat you up alive and distress you? And I know you've got transcripts to get out. My dear friend in Daytona Beach was just telling me that this is her 4th day in a row. She doesn't get to bed before 2 in the morning. She's working every day. She's on a daily in court, and she's got a huge schedule coming up, and she's stressed to the max, and I'm not going to dwell about that. I'm a very firm believer in when you're busy, you get help. Don't raise your hands. Don't raise your hands. But how many of you do housework? You know what I mean? It's like, I asked this question when I was giving a presentation to students. I asked them, how many of you folks iron? And 2 or 3 hands went up. This one lady, I said, what do you iron? She said, I iron my son's shirts. Thinking, 2014, and she irons her son's shirts. Okay. How old is your son? 17. Okay, so you've been at school 4 years, you're at 160, and you really want to get out. All right, and you iron your son's shirts. How about if he were to learn how to iron? Well, he's very busy. He's in high school. This is his final year. He's trying to get good grades so he can go to college, and he needs to focus on his study. I stopped the conversation. This is not a client of mine who I am life coaching, and I'm going to let it go there. We will not talk about that whole situation. We'll move on. Okay. But my bottom line question to you is, what do you do with your time? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, can't she get a cleaning lady or a little teenager down the street for $10 to go iron a few shirts once or twice a week? And I know the kids charge a lot now, don't they? My granddaughter has been babysitting for years. Now she's 18, but I think she started when she was 13. She says, Grandma, I babysit 3 children, I get $20 an hour. It's kind of a neat career for people to go into when they're, flipping hamburgers at McDonald's. They might try babysitting, I don't know. But anyway, it was just interesting to me. But anyway, the bottom line is you can delegate. How many perfectionists are in the room? One? Oh, there's more than one. Okay. Any others? Okay, that's all right. Folks, if you are a perfectionist, it means you care. It means you love quality. You like things done right. You like things to look beautiful. You don't want the table to be messy. And you're hard to live with. I say that with all due respect and with kindness. But it's not always easy to live with a perfectionist. Did I nail that? No comment.
No, he does all
No.
the housekeeping, all the cooking, and shopping. He can do what he wants.
Okay, all right. And I don't know if you have this situation. I discovered recently that we're not the only household that has a problem, and that is who loads the dishwasher best? Do you folks have a household where one person is great at loading the dishwasher and the other one can't do it right? We have that, and my husband is the excellent dishwasher loader, and he always tells me, don't load the dishwasher. So when he's not home and there are dishes there, I have a few minutes, I will load, an amazing phenomenon happens. I load the dishwasher, I turn it on, and put the soap in, and I wash the dishes, and what is amazing? They come out clean. How could that be? When he didn't load the dishwasher. It's just an amazing phenomenon to me. But why do I share this with you? Because we are products of how we think. And if you're a perfectionist, I'm going to make one suggestion and we'll move on. The one suggestion I make to you is try a very, very, very tiny, tiny little thing to let go of. If I don't do it, it's not going to get done right. It's going to take me longer to explain how to do something than it is for me to just do it. And if I do it, it will be done right the first time, and we'll all move on. Why should I waste the time? Try to explain it to somebody else, and let them try to do it, and they'll do it wrong. I have to go back and either redo it or re-explain it. What you're also doing is robbing another person of growth, of experience, of learning to do something well. And ultimately, if you train somebody to handle some little aspect of whatever it is you're doing in your life, you'll eventually be able to delegate that thing, and life gets a wee bit easier. And perhaps a drop less stressful. So in everything we talk about, I love to talk about small bites or tiny little things, making a slight change. It reminds me of that old expression. You know the expression, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, I think the English language is like how to eat 2 elephants. How do you learn real time and master real time? How do you master this crazy English language? Well, you eat 2 elephants the exact same way. One bite at a time, one word at a time, and going through that preparation and practice that I talked about earlier. That kind of mastery is absolutely vital. And that is what real-time writers do. How many of you write real-time now? Okay, great. Now, did you raise your hand because you write real-time just for yourself? So the computer's in front of you. How many of you write real-time for the outside world, for judges or for attorneys? Wonderful. I just got a sense of probably around 10 or 12% of the people sitting in this room. And that's great. Good for you. How many of you would like to write real-time for the outside world someday? Oh, I love it. Don't raise your hands. I'll be darned if I'm going to let them see my mistakes. I would never write real-time for the outside world. She's not going to make me raise my hand. And I don't care what she says. It's just not in my world. Because I have secrets. I drop. I don't tell anybody I drop. I don't talk about it. And in the olden days, before audio sync, and for you young folks, yes, there was court reporting before audio sync. What did we do? We did the best we could, and then we pieced our sentences together. We tried to make them look normal, and we made them read okay. And we hope nobody noticed. I want to tell you something. They noticed. And I want to tell you something else. There was nothing wrong with that. And I will tell you why. Because we did our best. Number one, we are all professionals. We have all been through incredibly rigorous training, which nobody could understand who's in the outside world. How many people graduated court reporting school from those who started? 1 out of 10. Everyone in this room is 1 out of 10. There are 9 people out there who couldn't make it, or didn't make it, or chose not to make it. Our skill is so incredible. It is so difficult. We are academically savvy, and we are also incredibly manually dexterous, and we've learned how to master this writing machine. And you're sitting there saying, yeah, she says we've mastered the writing machine. If she knew how many misstrokes I do, sometimes I hit the wrong keys. I can figure it out, I can read it later. But I'm not, oh, get over it. Of course we hit the wrong keys. Look what you can do, look what you've achieved. When was the last time you looked in a mirror and said, wow, I am a court reporter. I'm phenomenal. We are so busy worrying about all the things we can't do and all the things that don't go perfectly. Why am I saying all this? Because it hurts my heart to see you all limiting yourself. Not all, but many of you limiting yourself. You know I teach real-time workshops. Do you also know that there are many real-time writers out there in the world, and they doubled and sometimes tripled their income? I don't know, do you folks like money? My friend John Harmonson, I think he's living in DC now. He used to live in New Orleans. Can you imagine getting a job about an hour and a half, possibly 2 hours away from where you live, for some company you've never heard of, a depot agent, an attorney, office you've never heard of. It starts at 9, possibly 2-hour drive, an extra hour for setup, gets up at 4:30 in the morning, plans the route, takes the job, and it's the day after Mardi Gras. Now, if you don't know about the day after Mardi Gras, let me tell you, everything's a mess. The broken beer bottles and wine bottles, and the whole city is a disaster. Everybody is hungover and exhausted. And that is not the day you want to go out and take a job, especially far away, and especially when it's probably a no-show. John goes out there, finds the place, sees quite a few cars parked out in front. Walks in to many attorneys. It turns out it's an asbestos case. And John did what he did every day in those days. He brought 6 laptops with him, 6 netbooks. Y'all know what a netbook is. That little 2-pound computer. Loaded with litigation support software. He brought them to every job. And he put them on the table and asked if anybody would like to borrow a netbook for real time. Do they know what real time is? Many of them didn't. He offered them the netbook at no charge for 2 hours. They can try the real time. See what you think. See if you like it. Other people already had their computers with them. They were hooked up. Bottom line, he had an 0 and 22. It was an expedite. It went till 9 at night. Over 400 pages in one day. Was he exhausted? Not even beginning to describe his fatigue. Did he have a team? You better believe it. He had scopists and proofreaders. They worked very, very hard for the next 2 days, got the expedited out, disseminated to all of the people, and he sent in the bill for which he was paid immediately. And his portion of the bill, not what he paid everybody, his portion was $20,000. How's that for a day's worth of work and 2 days of prep? Now that's only happened to him once. I'm not trying to say that you will make that kind of money if you're a real-time writer. However, what about positioning yourself? And are you so hung up on, I could never do it, I can't, oh my gosh, and all that? Or are you about possibility thinking? So let's continue with our theme of performing at peak performance. To end this one short segment, I'm simply going to share with you that everybody drops. No. Not those great ones out there. Ed Varallo, Melanie Humphrey Sontag, not them. Mark Kislingberry, Deanne Bano, Laura Brewer, I'll add her to the list. Do you know that she's the world's wide real-time champion? She won first place at Inner Stand-Up. with worldwide competition. There are phenomenal real-time writers out there, and they're doing very well. And you might say to yourself, I could never be like that. That's great self-talk. Be sure to keep that up. Keep telling yourself what you can't do. And I'm not saying you will be one of those. And I'm not saying they're not brilliant, they're not exceptionally talented. Of course there are some people on the planet who have exceptional talent. I'm not talking about that. But I'm telling you, every person I just named, and everyone in the country, they drop. They drop every day. And if they drop, you can drop. If you feel that you drop more often, I've got great news for you. Speed build. Get your speed up there, you'll drop less. And I told you I'm going to share with you a few speed building techniques. Let's do it now while it's on my mind. Number one, I would highly recommend stenograph cells, performance accelerators. You can call stenograph, those are CDs. They're dictated in 10-word-a-minute increments. Of course, today with our technology, we can take any CD and speed it up or slow it down, and we don't get Mickey Mouse voice. We're able to maintain the integrity of the sound. But it doesn't matter, they're still great series to build speed. Number two, I have a little book, it costs $20, and it's called the Finger Exercise Book. And it's similar to that old Geller book with the green cover, and you sit there and you do these boring exercises. But my little finger exercise book incorporates the asterisk. It incorporates sentences. They're really dumb sentences, but they incorporate the words and the fingering that you need to practice. And if you use that little book 20 minutes a day, in less than 3 weeks, you will have gained 20 words a minute on your speed, if not more. Just by writing every day in a finger exercise book. And by the way, I do sell it at events for $15. I didn't bring any with me because they were at the printers. And if anybody wants to get one, it's $15. And that's not going to make you poor. It's not going to make me rich. If you don't want to get one, that's perfect. I have no problem with that. Just know that it exists and know that many thousands of reporters have loved it. But whatever you can do to build your speed is a good thing. The third thing is to do speed practice. You want to, I believe in practicing 3 levels. 1 level is too slow. What are you writing? Are you writing 210? Are you writing 240? Are you writing 180? Whatever speed you're writing, whatever that speed is fabulous. So get over it that you're not writing 299 or whatever it is. Whatever you're doing is fabulous. So if you're writing, say, 200, practice writing 160. Maybe 180. Should be pretty close to perfect. Should be able to get every word and it should look fabulous. Then practice your target speed, your 200. And that's good. I mean, you can write it and you're getting it pretty good, but then every once in a while, oops, something catches you. Oh, I'm getting nervous. You know, I gotta hang it. Oh, I made it. And then you settle down and I'm still writing. And now another little glitch. My mind is wandering, something, so I'm hanging it. Oh, I lost it. I just dropped. Okay, back on the horse, and I start writing again. So that's your target, your normal speed, where you write and you're writing fairly good, but sometimes a little bit of struggle. And the third practice would be too fast. If you're writing 200, practice 240. Practice 260. What happens is you're writing like crazy, your fingers are going like crazy, you drop and drop and drop, and that's okay. Because tomorrow you do the same take, and the next day and the next day, and by Friday, doing that same 260 take, you've dropped less. Okay? Not only that, you are hearing faster, your fingers are moving faster, and you're still writing 260. So if you get 45 seconds, or 22 seconds, you're writing 260 at 22 seconds, or 22 seconds, before you lose it. So this kind of a mental process is a very effective way to speed build. Does this make sense, folks? Okay, there, I want to make sure I shared that one thought since I didn't mention it. Okay, on humor, you can certainly read about that. To interject humor, especially at a time when life is stressful, It's a great idea to go find a funny movie that you love. One of my go-to movies is My Cousin Vinny. Have you seen My Cousin Vinny? I mean, that Marissa Tomei, is she like amazing on the witness stand? And of course, Danny DeVito. Oh my God! And the monster, isn't he the judge? The monster. I call him a monster. I forget his name. Anyway, fabulous movie. And if you've seen it, go see it again. And if you've never seen it, you gotta go see it. Okay. So you can always interject humor. We've offered you some ideas and why humor is so important. You've got this list here. You're going to hear more about humor today. Let's go back to peak performance. By the way, interjecting humor in your life is one of the 7 major strategies that peak performers implement. On the next page, you'll see reducing, eliminating, choking under pressure by mastering energy and emotions. Energy and emotions. If you look at this page, you're going to see there are 4 major categories. 1, high positive energy. High positive energy is when you feel fabulous, you're in control, you're focused, you can visualize excellence, and you can get excited and you're enthusiastic, and you feel like I can do this, and you just feel fabulous. The adrenaline is going, all happy, and you're in a wonderful place. High positive energy. It's a great place to hang out, isn't it? The second quadrant, or the second category, would be low positive energy. And low positive energy is something to the effect of you're very relaxed, you're kind of tired, you're sleepy, or maybe you're kind of placid, resting, unhurried, calm, easygoing, no stress. Is that a good or bad place to hang out, do you think? What do you think? Good or bad? Good. Yes. That's your yin and yang. And when some of you exercise buffs, you know, when you exercise upper body one day, what do you do the next day? Lower body. Why? We're giving the upper body a day to rest. So to have great exerted joy and to have relaxation is fabulous. It's a perfect balance. We call that high positive energy, low positive energy. The third quadrant is low negative energy. Things like you are annoyed or you're bored, uninterested, overwhelmed, feeling hopeless, overtired, powerless. You feel like a victim. I mean, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today. I can't believe that happened. And you get depressed or burnt out. Low negative energy is a very dangerous place to hang out. That's a caution. If you catch yourself in a low positive zone, a low negative zone, you want to find a way to get over to that low positive. And just by being conscious of it and knowing that it's not a great place to hang out. Sometimes you might need a time limit. All right, I'm going to give myself 20 minutes to be in low negative, and then I'm going to get out. It's not healthy. And the fourth quadrant, or the fourth category, is high negative energy. This is a major, major danger zone. You'll notice on this page on the left, we've illustrated the 4 different energy zones. On the next page on the right, we have this in pictorial form, a little visually laid out differently. And the high negative is when you are really angry, or you're furious, tense, you're disgusted, you've got anger and no joy, and you are focusing on the past or future. Believe it or not, that can hop you into that high negative energy zone. You want to seek revenge and temper, choke under pressure. Folks, if you are depressed and you're in a high negative energy zone, I'm certainly not a psychiatrist, and I'm not going to give you technical medical advice, but I will tell you, depression can be very serious. Sometimes we're depressed because of a medicine that we take. Don't you love these ads on TV? Take this fabulous pill, it's going to help you feel all whatever, And some of the side effects are, you might have kidney disease, you might have a heart attack, you might die, you might this, you might that. I mean, and if you feel depressed, be sure to call your doctor and stop taking it. And without belaboring this thought process, I know two people personally, situations where the hugest tragedies happened in their lives. One of them was a young man, 33 years old, happily married to a gorgeous, lovely, lovely woman, his dream. Their little 4-year-old girl. He's an EMT. And went on a job, it was particularly troubling. It was emotionally hideous to his eyes. And he tried some kind of a new drug. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, he shot himself and committed suicide. When he had a fabulous life, he loved his career, loved his family, and there was some lapse in whatever chemical or medication that was not good, and we just don't know. Chances are you know of stories where people have committed suicide or people have done certain things, or, you know, there are so many stories out there. And I say to you, if you sense a depression in yourself, it would be wonderful to say in any loved one, because we always want to be there and be supportive and do whatever we can for our loved ones. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we are not the person who can offer great advice other than to love and support to the best of our ability. And I won't dwell on that topic other than to say these things are real, they do exist. Please take this page seriously. This is a very powerful page. And I don't know if you know Linda Batchelor Baker, but she married my dear friend Jim Baker. Anyway, Barker. But anyway, she's a leading court reporter. She went through my 6-hour peak performance class where we talked a lot about this, and we did a lot of demonstrating, and just, it was a 6-hour class. And she told me that class changed her life, and she still uses the information to this day. It's a matter of being conscious. Where are you operating from? And I know I ended a sentence with a preposition. Have you heard that one? Okay, well, I'm on camera. I don't use any profanity, right? Right. So anyway, I'm very respectful of my audience. But oh well, should I tell you? All right. You won't tell anybody. Camera? Bleep this part out. I was having lunch with breakfast with Richard Lederer one morning. Anybody know Richard Lederer, the name? Didn't you read the journal for the last 28 years? Lederer on language. Phenomenal wit, phenomenal humor, phenomenal, brilliant, genius man who has written over 40 books. Happens to be a good And we were at breakfast, and I had only wished I had had an audio recording, because everything that came out of that man's mouth was absolutely brilliant. And he was a keynote speaker at the Court Reporters Convention. I think it was in Philadelphia or New York, somewhere on the East Coast. I don't know if anybody heard him. It was about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Anyway, he gave probably one of the greatest presentations I've ever heard in my entire life. And I have heard the best of the best of the best. And there'd be no way to capture and explain how brilliant he was. But one story he did tell was Low Snipe and the Devon Swarfs. And he told the whole thing in perfect time. He wrote that was Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Low Snipe and the Devon Swarfs. Took me 2 months to master that little sentence. Anyway, we were chatting, and he talked about how a gentleman was talking with one of his students and said, so, what was the question? What university do you go to? And he said, well, or what city are you from, where your university is, and something like, I forgot the question. How do you like that? Boy, Anita, you're doing good. Remember, I told you something. It will come to me. Got it. What university did you graduate from? And the young man said, you're not supposed to end a sentence with a preposition. So the next question was, what university did you graduate from, asshole? Okay. Anyway, the 4 energy zones are very important to us. And let's move right along. What are some of these 7 strategies I alluded to earlier? What are some of these quote-unquote secrets that Olympic champions embrace? One is affirmations. Yeah, I know, I don't believe in all that stuff. Folks, empirical evidence documented time and time again. What we say to ourselves and how we think becomes our reality. Didn't, who wrote Psycho-Cybernetics? See, you forgot too. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, some of these all-time greats from the past would say, you become what you think about. You become what you think about. We've heard that. We read Think and Grow Rich. Anybody read Think and Grow Rich? Yes? Have you read it recently? I haven't either. Well, I hadn't either. It's like, yeah, I know, that's a good book. I picked it up and started reading it again, and I cannot believe the gold in that book. Folks, get it. It's a little book. And it's what most superstar, champion, CEOs, and winners in life have read. They've read this book. Some of them read it over and over again. The information in that book is absolutely priceless. And today you hear a book name, are you like me? You go to Amazon and do a click, you can buy it for 99 cents. Okay, so you pay $4 shipping. But that's okay, or what, a penny, some of them are $1, some of them are $1, and then you pay the $4 shipping. That's a non-conversation. You're not going to sit and wonder if that's a wise investment. Let me think about this now. This is an interesting book, but it's $4. Do I really want to invest $4? It's a non-conversation. If anybody has to worry about $4, you're in the wrong profession. And if you don't have $4 to throw away on something that might be a bad decision, then you must get into real time so you can double your income. Okay, here's the thing. I am addicted to one click. Anybody do one click on Amazon? Oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Is that like, oh my, one click done. It's in my Kindle, I got the book. Takes about 1 second. Oh my goodness. It's what a world we live in today, what we have access to. And of course, Googling and on the internet, we can get so much free stuff. So, I'm telling you that affirmations are hugely powerful. In one of my classes, when we talk about it, I offer 11 possible affirmations. And I've given them to you here today. If one of these relates to you, if you're going to be taking a test, you might like one of these. I am telling you there is tremendous power in this. How many of you have a dream board? That's another thing. Oh, you do? Good for you. You know what? Dream boards work. Oh, what is it? Oh, it's a big board where you put neat stuff. You've got your favorite car, you've got your favorite city you want to travel to, you've got your favorite foods, you've got your favorite, whatever you love in life, whatever you'd like to have. If you've got it already, great. If you're going to get it, if you want it, you put it on a dream board. It's amazing what we manifest with our minds. And if you think that's silly, talk to successful people. I have a partner in a new business, and oh my goodness, I love being her partner because I learn and grow from her so much. Don't you love being around people where you grow and you learn? So who do you spend the most time with? How many people do you spend time with who help you to learn and grow and influence you? Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? If you're the smartest one, you need new friends. I'm not kidding. Who influences you? You're a court reporter. You've been a court reporter for 12 years. You're kind of thinking about maybe getting into this real-time thing. You know, everybody needs it. Everybody's talking about it, getting a job today. The judges want real-time writers. Maybe I will. I go turn in a transcript at my office and I see Sally Sue, my old buddy from Sally Sue. I haven't seen you in a long time. How are you? Boy, you look great. You know, Sally Sue, I've been kind of toying with this idea of getting into real time. I don't know. Sally Sue says, it's good. Not me. I'm just fine where I am. They don't even ask for it where I work. I don't want that stress. I'm not going to let everybody see what I write. And I go, you know, you're right. They're not asking for it where I work either. Why do I need to do that? Yeah, I don't need to give myself more stress. Okay. But another day, somebody goes into the office, drops off the transcripts, and sees another old buddy, Philip. Philip! Hey, it's been a long time. How you doing? Great. Gosh, didn't we have a fun dinner that night when we went to that convention? It was, oh, great memory. You know, Phil, I've been kind of thinking about getting into this real time. I don't know, they don't ask for it where I work. I don't really need to do it. And I don't know, I feel so much stress when I think of real time. And Philip says, I did too, when I was thinking about getting into real time. But I found a buddy, and we actually started working on our writing together. And you know what? Not only did I end up loving it, but 2 years later I passed the CRR, and I have gotten on some great tobacco cases. I've made a lot of money. It is wonderful. And the day goes by more fun because I'm having a great time editing as I go along. I make up new briefs. They got this big long name, Amalgamated Steel and Pipeline Incorporated Inc. And I got a single stroke. I go, whoop! And I will tell you what the single stroke is. Well, it's in this afternoon session, so maybe or the later morning session. I can tell you what, somebody remind me, if I don't tell you my single stroke for that long word, remind me to make sure that I tell you. Okay, good? All right. Anyways, really? I don't know if I can do it. Absolutely you can. You just get started. You start one word at a time. If you can find a friend to work with, have a practice study plan together, and you start increasing it. You know what happens? Your writing gets better, your editing gets better, your skills get better. You know, thank you, Philip. I think I'm going to start opening my thoughts to that. And what kind of a difference could this person's life have? And let's look down the road, 1, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, from the two conversations. Who influences you? Are you in a restaurant? Did you get really crummy service and you didn't like the meal? And one of you says, I don't want to leave a tip. I don't think I'm going to leave a tip. Are you? And the other one says, no. Why should we leave a tip with such terrible service and lousy food? And what if you were with a different person and said, you know, this was lousy food and we didn't have good service at all. I don't think I want to leave a tip. And what if the other person says, you know what? It's still a working wait staff, or we used to call them waitresses in the olden days, folks, but they are servers, right? Now they're servers. And I don't feel right not leaving something. They still make very little money, and they depend on tips. I'm going to leave a tip, maybe not as much as I would have. And then I said, yeah, you're right. We'll leave at least something. And make that person's day a little bit brighter than not leaving any tip. Who influences you? Who do you hang out with? What do people advise you to do? Because I know for myself, I'm very flexible. Sometimes when I'm with one person, I might make this type of a decision. When I'm with a different person, I make that type of a decision. I have a little rule of thumb, and it's just my personal rule of thumb, and I'll share it with you. Whenever you're going to leave a tip and you're thinking, should I leave $3 or $4? Let me think about this. Always leave the higher amount. And I'll tell you why. Because you can. And you're putting it out to the universe. Why not put good out in the universe? No one will ever know. It's not about somebody knowing what you were thinking. It's not about you getting a pat on the back. It's about who you are on the inside. Just leave a little more. It never hurts. Make somebody's day. Just a thought. But anyway, I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but I did. So let's talk about affirmations. Affirmations are a sentence, possibly two, you say to yourself every morning. You might say them every morning 10 times out loud. You might say them every morning and every night 10 times out loud. When I took the Nevada CCR in 2001, we moved to Nevada. I thought it would be a good idea for me to be legal to report in Nevada. I took the test, knew I would pass it. After all, I sat for my merit. Okay, so I didn't pass it. But don't you think if you sit for your merit, like you're pretty good, you're like the 250-ish, 255-ish, almost at 260-ish? So I took it once, didn't pass it, and now I'm sitting for the 200 CCR in Nevada. And I'm a writer. I consider myself a very good writer. I failed that test. I failed by 11. I had 61 errors. I was so used to writing officialships in court, depositions. I wasn't into the timed 5-minute, 12-minute testing. And I went back to school for 4 months, and an amazing thing happened. I was in the 180 class. I could not pass a 180. It's very interesting. And I killed myself practically to be sure that I would pass the next test. I did pass the academics. I did not pass the written, the machine written. And I took the test 6 months later. And 2 weeks before that test, I had lunch with Jim, and I don't know where it popped out from. I have no idea. But it just popped out at lunch. I write my best when I write my test. I write my best when I write my test. I write my best when I write my test. And at this time period, I gave a presentation to, what do you call it? CRAD, Court Reporter Institute of Dallas. Creed, thank you. We're in Texas, I know in Texas, so Dallas, you can say Dallas here, you know what you mean. And I actually shared my little affirmation with them, and they made that their theme for the year. I write my best when I write my test. When I took the test, something very interesting happened. I dropped a comma, and I wrote the word defendant one time, D-O-E-F-T. I write defendant, D-E-F-T, but I misstroked and put an O in there. Other than those 2 errors, the test was absolutely flawless. There were no shadows in my notes, let alone any other miswords. I'm not bragging. I'm sharing with you my foibles, my failures, but you talk about copper plate notes, you talk about perfect. I never saw anything so flawless and perfect in my entire life. Am I this perfect person? Absolutely not. Do you think maybe the affirmations had something to do with it? And yes, of course, I practiced, I prepared, and went to school as much as I could while I was running a business and traveling, doing workshops. But yes, I put the time in, and I did pass the 225 in school before that test. But what I am saying is I attribute it to these affirmations. Are you going to have a very uncomfortable confrontation soon? I've talked about public speaking. Are you giving a presentation? Do you have to say something to somebody that's extremely uncomfortable? Do you have to do a confrontation that you don't want to do? Why not do what we call a mental rehearsal, which is on your next page, a visualization. Close your eyes and picture yourself walking up to that person. Say what you need to say. That person hears you in the best possible light. You end up in a dialogue that works. You end up in the very best possible scenario. And you picture it. And it's okay. While you think it's uncomfortable, it turns out okay. It turns out that everything works out good by the end of that communication, or whatever that is that you thought was uncomfortable. Do a mental rehearsal, a mental visualization. These are hugely powerful techniques. Remember Greg Louganis, the fabulous diver? First person in the world in the Olympics who got straight 10s. Remember? Long time ago. Greg Louganis would do a mental rehearsal. He would do visualizations. He would picture himself on that diving board, walking up to the end, looking at the audience, looking at all the people at the Olympics, looking at the water, getting a sense of the depth of the water and the whole environment. And then he would picture himself jumping high, doing his triple pretzel twist, whatever they call it, and doing his dive and going into the water like a pencil. A flawless, perfect dive. He did a mental rehearsal 40 times. And you know what? Every single one of those dives was perfect. Absolutely perfect. By the time it was his turn to go out for the Olympics, that was his 41st dive. It was so boring. He's already done 40 perfect ones. Of course he did the 41st one perfect. Think about it. You have this ability. We can do so much if we choose. Okay? Comments or questions? Anybody have an idea here? See, imagine, feel, taste, smell, sense, hear exactly the scenario you choose to happen in any walk of life. Set the stage and continue to create a daydream with emotions that ultimately becomes your reality. The CNS doesn't know the difference between reality and an imagined story. Anybody want to tell me what CNS might stand for? The central nervous system. The central nervous system doesn't know the difference between reality and an imagined story. Why don't you create wonderful stories for your brain, for yourself? Watch yourself talk. God, I'll never get that right. Why are you saying that? Why are you talking to your subconscious? Why are you continuing to do these negative things? By the way, I'm talking to you and telling you this. I'm also talking to myself. Do I do self-negative talk? Absolutely. Am I better than I used to be? Yes. Am I a little more aware today than I used to be? Yes. I work on it, and some things do slip through the cracks. But I'm just sharing with you what is at our possibilities and our little tips for life and different things. Recall a profound moment of great joy and imagine how it felt. Get in touch with those emotions. Recreate your finest hour, your white moment. You can create the future now. I just got an email from a dear friend of mine in Australia. She lives in the Gold Coast. Her name is Helen. Helen and Tony. And an amazing phenomenon. Even though we live in Las Vegas and they live in Australia, we went through about 8 years of seeing each other once a year. We were either in Europe or we were in London, and she was captioning for the BBC. Or we ended up in Melbourne where she lived, and they were home, which is rare, and we got to see them. They came to the United States, and we would be in different cities and states together. Such a joy. Got an email from Helen this morning. She said, Tony would be too modest to tell you, but I just have to share the great news. Tony was just inducted into the International Hall of Fame for cricket because he was a superstar leader in the world of cricket. And she said the whole family is so overjoyed. She wanted to share the joy with me. Isn't this incredible? This is wonderful. Great news. Anyway, I don't know why that popped into my head, but it did. And I just simply share with you that some of these things can be so wonderful. You have white moments. You have wonderful moments in your life. That's a wonderful place to think about and to project some things about your future. Whatever it is that you look at. Okay? The next page, one easy transformational technique, EFT. Has anybody ever heard of EFT? Okay, it stands for, and I know that there are so many acronyms that mean different things, but they're the same thing, like effective Frito toasts. All right, so I make up things corny, but that's okay. Remember, I told you I'm not up here to look great? I can be kind of goofy too. All right, emotional freedom technique. What is it? I'll tell you what it is. It's wonderful. I will also tell you that it works. Well, what do you mean? Let me share a little bit about emotional freedom technique. Number one, you can find it on the internet. Google it, read about it, learn about it. There's a lot of information on it, and of course that is free. My husband stumbled on it many years ago. Started reading about it, was very interested. Read and read and read, liked it. Gary Craig, who created the concept around 30 years ago, had a lot of information on the internet, videos, different things. And he also had products, if anybody was interested to buy, a whole series of DVDs, video DVDs. And my husband decided to buy it, $79. You know what it said on every single DVD? It said, please copy, duplicate, and spread to all your friends and relatives. His vision was to share EFT with the world. Free information on the internet. It is very easy to learn. You can learn it in maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Now, if something is great and it's free and it's easy, what's wrong with that? I will tell you that it works, it is effective, it is cheap or free, and I will now tell you exactly what it is. It is a tapping technique, and it is emulated from the Asian meditations and PowerPoints, PowerPoints that we have on our bodies, you know, acupressure, how they do the different, you know what I mean? It's like kind of like that, where you're releasing energy flows in your body. I fell down about, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and I was at a place where there was a security guard that, oh lady, let me help you up, are you okay? I'm fine. You know how we are. We're fine. I'm fine, I'm embarrassed. I don't want to make a big scene, right? And they bring me a wheelchair. I'm okay, I just scraped my knee. I fell on my knee. I'm okay. Okay, well, let's make out an accident report. If you want to, okay. But 2 hours later, my knee is hurting. Worse and worse and worse. I go to the security guard and I say, excuse me, my knee is swelling and it's hurting really bad. I think I need to go to the emergency. They called my husband, who was in another location in the same city, and met me at the emergency. By the time I got to the emergency office, my knee was so excruciating that all I wanted was to be knocked out. Give me a shot, let me sleep. I cannot handle the pain. The pain was beyond tolerance. And I was crying hysterically, like, you know, the kind of a, one of those types of cries. It was beyond horrible. And I was hyperventilating. I could hardly breathe. The pain was that bad. I couldn't stand, I couldn't sit. I found a way to put my foot on a trash can, waiting for the ER people. And Jim says to me, why don't you try tapping, which is what EFT is. And of course, I hadn't thought of it. That's one of the worst parts of EFT. You don't think of it when you need it. Anyway, I thought, right. Even though my knee is and I'm doing this little 1, 2, 3, 4. Happy birthday to you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Happy birthday to you. I swear to you, within 2 minutes, I was breathing normally. 90% of the pain was gone. And I looked at Jim and I said, do you believe this? Look at me. I'm okay. It was so unbelievable to me. And why was it unbelievable? How can our minds even begin to comprehend such an experience? Now, I will tell you, I've read about 1,000 different cases on the internet. I've seen the videos. Gary Craig did a lot of work with PTSD people, post-traumatic, did I say it right? PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, people, survivors from war and everything else, from the Vietnam War and what they go through. He has made such a huge difference in their lives, and I'm telling you, you can do this yourself. I'm telling you, it is so wonderful. Look it up. And, I mean, it is just a wonderful technique. So just know that it exists. And a lot of top names are affiliated with this kind of a process. Okay, creating mastery of test joy. Call to action. What are you going to do with some of the things I've talked about? How are you going to master your stress when you're under pressure? What specifically are you thinking about dealing with or going through if it's a confrontation or a presentation, or taking a speed test, or the CRR, or whatever in your life, what are you going through that is a big struggle for you? Here are 8 ideas. And some of these ideas are talking about taking the speed test. Are you going to take the RMR? Are you going to take the CRR? Are you going to take the RPR? Whatever it is, whether it's court reporter related or life related, come and create your own call to action and take it seriously. It's amazing the things we can create in our lives if you choose to do that. This information is in your handout. I mentioned these resources. The word log book, it's just an A to Z blank book. Every time you get a new word, a new phrase, you can write it in this book. It says word and steno. Put your steno in a book and review that book every day. If you flip through a little book every day where you're writing new words, imagine if you've done that for a week. Imagine if you've done that for a month. Where would you be? The new word, do you think it might lock in and you've got it? You better believe it. One of the definitions of learning is spaced repetition. When you review something very easily, very quickly, every day, and the next day, and the next day, at some point in time, your brain has. And that's the magic. So when we get into our other segment after the break, we're going to be talking about shortcuts, briefs, easy ways to write things, and I'd love to hear from you. With what we've talked about so far today, does any thought come to mind? Does any story in your life come to mind that you'd like to share? No. Oh, Anita, I've got stories all right, but I'm not sharing them in front of this group. And that's okay. I'm not asking you to be uncomfortable. Sometimes when I give presentations, we have a lot of dialogue, a lot of interaction. If things come to mind, that's great. And if not, it's perfect. Okay? We're good. Yes? Okay. Are there any questions? Do you have any questions about something that you might not understand the process of? Okay. All right. This completes the first part of peak performance under pressure. I said I would share something with you. What was it? Does anybody remember? Oh, right. Okay. I'm going to just look very quickly through the notes to see if I've got it listed here. Because I don't want to ruin my own thunder. Let me just make sure. Capitalization, yeah. Okay, it is covered in the afternoon, in the next segment, the next morning session. Okay, it's covered under writing briefs, shortcuts, and super briefs. So we will get to that. Let me share with you a few books that I think are fabulous. Tell me if you've heard of them, or tell me if you've ever read anything. Number 1, Blink. See? Blink. B-L-I-N-K. I know I don't have a southern accent, and I don't have that wonderful Texas drawl. No. But anyway, B-L-I-N-K. Has anybody ever heard of that book or read it? Great. Write down the author's name, if you like. Malcolm Gladwell, a great 21st century business author. His books are in many, many languages worldwide. And they sell his books in the airport. Now, don't you think that means it's a great book if it made it to the airport? Because they don't have a big space for books, right? Just quick reads. Okay, yeah, it is. And these books that I'm sharing with you are all quick reads. Well, I could say Atlas Shrugged. What's that, 1,200 pages? So, but anyway. Blink. B-L-I-N-K. Malcolm Gladwell. It's a short book. It's absolutely delightful. Great little stories. Don't you like little stories when you're reading a book? It's just kind of fun reading, and of course it makes a point. This particular book starts out with a great story. I won't spoil it for you, I won't tell you what happened, but I will give you the nature of the first story that he talks about in the book. The John Paul Getty Museum in Southern California, the Los Angeles area, came across a very beautiful, ancient relic piece. The people who founded this piece are asking $10 million for it. So the Getty Museum took a year to research the piece. They had the finest curators worldwide examine the piece. They put it through many types of testings in Europe, and they really analyzed it. You don't make a $10 million investment quickly or willy-nilly. That's not like that $4 investment I talked about earlier. And it took them a year to analyze this particular piece. They came to a conclusion of what to do. Should they yes buy it, or should they no buy it? And I don't want to share the end of the story with you, because you might read the book and I think you'll enjoy reading about it. But what happened after all of this research and everything that went down is fascinating. And it happened in the blink of an eye. A blink of an eye. And that's what they mean. They're referring to your intuition, your instinct. And men have intuition also, but we talk about women's intuition. And I'm telling you, listen to it. Pay attention to it. When you get a thought, you've got a thought. Something came in your head. How many times do we think, oh, yeah, oh no, that doesn't really make sense. We go from our intuition, from our gut feeling, which is vital, to our thinking process. Totally different thought process. And is it always right? I'm not saying it's wrong to think. I'm just saying, read this little book and I think you'll love it. Okay? The second book he wrote is a book called Tipping Point. It's either The Tipping Point or just Tipping Point. Tipping. I know. All we want to know is how you spell it, right? We want to make sure our spelling is right. But Tipping Point is another fabulous, little, inexpensive book by Malcolm Gladwell. The third one he wrote was Outliers. Outliers, one word. Outliers. I recommend that you read Blink first, then Tipping Point, and then Outliers. Has anybody ever read Outliers? Anybody ever hear of these books? Okay, great. You are in for a treat. Outliers is absolutely phenomenal. It's just a fascinating book. I think you will really enjoy it. Okay? And by the way, if you have a book or a video you'd like to share with the room, we would love to hear it. It doesn't need to be only my favorites. Another book that changed my life was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Man's Search for Meaning. I believe it's M-A-N''S. We all know that's correct, but how many of us see signs with incorrect apostrophes? Right? And I'll bet you it just irks you, doesn't it? It is so disconnected in our brains. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, V-I-K-T-O-R, Viktor, V-I-K-T-O-R. Frankl, F-R-A-N-K-L, German. He was a psychiatrist, and he was captured and thrown into the concentration camps in around 1940. And he lived through the most atrocious atrocities a human being could ever experience, the most incredible indignities of human experience. It is not a book about sensationalism and, oh my God, isn't that horrible? You can get plenty of that on TV if you're into that and you love gory, scary, horrible. And sure, some people do, my son does. He loves fantasy, horror, and all that. It's not about that. But as a psychiatrist, he did a lot of analyzing and observing. How come some people die and some people live? And what is it about the process? I will share this one thought with you. Viktor Frankl said to himself, I'm going to live. They will not get me. If I die, they win. If I live, I win. And he was determined to survive, no matter what happened. He did see his wife and children killed right in front of him. And I'm telling you, he saw horrible things. And what this book is, he's written many books, because yes, he did survive, and he did get out when the war ended. And he went on to find another lovely wife and children, and he built a family, and he built a life. He built a life of a wonderful career. He created logotherapy and moved on. And how could a man go through such a thing and survive? How could somebody experience what he experienced and be okay? What is that process that somebody could actually be okay? But I think you'll find it fascinating. And for me, I read it, and I have to be honest, I feel very ashamed of myself. And it's like, and I complain about that. And I don't think I like this. What's wrong with me? But it did inspire me, it did help to lift me up. So anyway, so that is another book that I wanted to share with you. And a video, a movie. Tell me if you've ever heard of this or seen this movie. Temple Grandin. Anybody? Okay, you're in for so many treats. Netflix, free, okay? We ordered the DVD to be sent to us. I don't know that it's streaming live on Netflix, but you get a free video, and then you watch it, and then you send it back. How hard is that? Temple, Temple. Grandin, Grandin. I'm not going to tell you a lot about it. I'm just telling you, go get it. Okay? That's what somebody told me. Some old geezer at a poker table told me, go see Temple Grandin. What is that? It's a movie, you can rent it. Well, what's it about? Don't even worry about it, just go get it. Well, oh, stop, just get it. All right, I'll go get it. I've shown it 13 times in our home to all our friends and relatives in the area, and I have to tell you, everybody I've shown it to has absolutely loved the movie. And I found it fascinating. I have no affiliation to the topic, but I'm sharing this with you, that's it. The reason I think it's fabulous to get the DVD is, you know how they have when you've got a DVD and it has like the behind the scenes, or how they made it and different things? Oh my gosh, when you see that and what was behind the scenes, I will share just this part with you. Temple Grandin is a person. That's her name. And what she did in the world and what she did in life is just amazing. Claire Danes plays Temple Grandin. She did win a Golden Globe Award. I believe it's a documentary, but I know most of us do really like Claire Danes. She's wonderful in this movie. So anyway, that's just another thought that popped into my head. Okay. Anybody think of something favorite you'd like to share with the group? Does anybody read? Does anybody watch movies? Okay. I mean, it's okay if you don't. I have no problem with that. I just wanted you to know that you're welcome. Yes.
I started with some of these types of books we've done. Power of Positive Thinking.
Yes, the power of positive thinking. Was that Maxwell?
Peele, I think.
Norman Vincent Peale. That's it. Yes.
I kind of started that book, and it's
You started with that book. Did it help?
a lot.
Yes, it's a wonderful book. Thank you. That's a great reminder, The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. Yes, I saw a few more hands.
There is a program, an exercise program called Fit 150. And they
Fit
do,
150?
yes, they do a lot of tapping.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, and do you love it?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's meditation and tapping, and yeah, it's quite interesting. You can Google it.
That's wonderful. Fit, F-I-T, 150. I'm going to write that one down. Sounds great.
They're in Austin,
Okay?
and I think they're probably branching out, you know,
Wonderful.
because they're not from Austin.
Okay, but we can Google it. The whole world, just Google it, right? Thank you very much. I appreciate that tip. Great. Somebody else? I thought I saw another. Yes.
Random thought, I've been to your real-time seminar, and, you know, always enjoyed your presentation, et cetera, but you're more remarkable. You play poker too.
Hey, dude, I live in Vegas.
So, you know,
Do you play poker?
a little bit.
Do we have any poker players in the room? What is your name?
Louis.
Oh, yes, my friend Louis here. Yes, Louis, do you know who Richard Lederer, you know Richard Lederer, I mentioned that. Do you know who Howard Lederer is?
Isn't he the poker player with his sister Annie?
Yes, Annie Duke?
Yes, Annie Duke.
Do you know who their father is?
I do not.
Richard Lederer.
Wow, really?
We just connected the dots, didn't we? Howard Lederer, Richard Lederer, Annie Duke.
There you go.
Annie Duke and Howard Lederer are two of the world-class top poker players in the world. Probably within the top 5, for sure.
It's scary how many brilliant MIT and Harvard educated people play poker. That's scary.
Well, that's true. They both quit university before their doctorate degrees. They both left university to play poker. Interesting. Richard and his first wife were not thrilled. But they're okay now. They got over it.
And if you play poker with them, I do not want to play poker with you.
No, I do not play poker with them. I've been to their house a few times. I've been to some of their parties. They won't play poker with me.
That's even more.
Annie Duke is a coach, and I don't pay her high fees to get coached. But my daughter did, because my daughter's a poker player, and she loves it. My son's a poker player. Okay, yes.
I don't know if I don't know if the movie was from the book or a book, but you have Australian friends who made me think of it. Rabbit Proof Fence is an absolutely amazing true story about 3 young girls, Aborigines from Australia.
Really? And now tell me that again. It's a movie, is that right? The movie, what is it?
It's called Rabbit Proof Fence.
R-A-B-B-I-T?
Just like the
Rabbit, R-A-B-B-I-T hyphen? We need to know hyphen.
No, it's not hyphen. Well, it probably
Should have been.
be.
It should have been, right?
Should be.
Proof, P-R-O-O-F.
P-R-O-O-F, Rabbit Proof Fence.
Proof. Fence, F-E-N-C-E. Yes? Wow, thank you. I love this.
It's an amazing true story about 3 young girls trying to get back home after they've been sent to, they back in the 50s.
Can you all hear?
Can you hear me?
Are you
Back-
okay?
And earlier, if an Aborigine, and a white person had children, those children were sent away because of cultural issues. And these 3 girls decided to make it back home after they were sent to this orphanage / we're going to send to a person's house and you're going to do domestic chores for them. But the girls walked the entire way back to their home,
Oh my
which
gosh.
was 1,200 miles.
Oh,
Yeah. And they followed the rabbit-proof fence, which was put up by the government to keep rabbits from destroying crops, and that was what they used as their way to get home.
oh my gosh.
It's an amazing story.
Wow.
And
Oh, I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, it's really, I couldn't believe it was true.
And you can rent it on Netflix?
I don't know.
Well, you Google it, you figure out.
Google
Google and Netflix, is there any other? Could you imagine life, you young folks? You can't imagine, yes, there was life before Google. I mean, I don't know how. Thank you so much. I appreciate hearing that. Okay, somebody else? I thought I saw another hand that went up. Any more ideas, thoughts? Yes.
On that affirmation stuff, there's a book called The 5 Love Languages.
Oh, thank you. That's another one that I
And
recommend.
it is, especially if affirmation is your love language, which for my daughter it is, and it's such an amazing concept because if you've never read it before, it's really amazing because someone can say I love you, and if they say, I love you in a foreign language, you literally can't hear them. It doesn't matter how many times they say it because they're not speaking to you in your love language. So for my daughter, it's affirmation, and so we just throw affirmations of your whatever they are. For my husband, it's acts of service, and mine is quality time. And so when someone speaks to you in your love language, you hear them. He can give me lip to the wazoo. It won't matter unless he spends time with me. That's the only time I feel loved. So, and affirmation is one of
Yes, the 5 love languages.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, and there are other books very similar, like love languages of teenagers or things like that. And very, very quickly, I don't remember all 5, but you've mentioned a few. One love language is touch. Do you like to get your neck rubbed? Do you like holding? Do you love the feel of a human being near you? Is that how you feel love? Another one is gift giving. A love language is when you give me a gift. I love presents. I love a thoughtful idea of giving a gift. Another one is words. Do you like hearing sweet things? And another one is
Quality time.
quality time. Yes, that's right. Quality time together. And the 5th one would be acts of service. Because my husband is the world's worst gift giver. He doesn't know how to give a gift. I can spell it out for him and write it out. He's a terrible gift giver. But I tell him my birthday is every day because he does so many little things for me. I have water on my nightstand every night. He knows I like water at night. He would run my bath for me every day when I was taking a bath every day. It was just little things, the gifts of task. And thank you for mentioning that. That's a great book, and I appreciate that. Yes.
What was that book called about getting rich? You
Think
mentioned
and
it.
Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, absolutely, folks. This is probably a staple and a must in every majorly successful business person's life.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a book that's been read by so many millions of people. Millions, yes. Going back to the mid-1900s. Okay, this brings us to the end of our time. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back at, what time? 10 o'clock. We'll come back at, I'll give you a little extra, 10 after 10. Okay? Because I went over a little bit. So we'll come back at 10 after 10 as a nice break. And we will do writing techniques.